Howdy, folks. Welcome to Adventures in Alberon, our 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I'm Joe, the Dungeon Master, and joining me are Matt, Miles, Ali, and Tina, who you see around you. This is session 40, which is pretty sweet. We've been going for like 14 months, so that's super exciting. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, a 5th edition D&D campaign. It's in a homebrew setting called Alberon, thus Adventures in Alberon. And we've been doing it. We typically play in person. However, for the environment, we are playing on Discord. So a couple of quick announcements before we get started. Some of the art that we've had done, if you guys follow us on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or any of those things, we're putting up this really beautiful art, which has been done for us by Ziggurat, which I've been mispronouncing for a very, very long time. But they, so beautiful watercolors, she sends them to you. You get the actual physical thing that you can hold and touch and put in a frame and have behind you. So that's, eventually we're gonna do that once we are in person again. So thank you very much, Sophie. Check her out on Instagram. That is at Dib. Post it in the chat. Also this week we have Sirenscape, which is a digital tool set for dungeon masters or D&D players, or whatever you want to do with a bunch of sound effects that are vaguely, and then like some really random 1920s like music that is also there for some reason. But really, really cool tool set. And then aside from that, I think that's pretty much all that we have. It was like a pretty quiet week, so. Unless anybody else has anything that they want to add.
The stream looks really, really laggy.
Yeah, it's a little laggy. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to fix it.
Okay. So if you are seeing some lag, that is something that we're working on. So bear with us just a little bit. Hello, Talon, and thank you for letting us know, and thank you for subscribing as well. Glad that you're here and glad that you're doing well. So before we jump into the recap, I just want to see if we can get the lag under control. I think we're better. Talon, let us know if we're better, dude. But if we are, that means that we can jump right into our recap, which is great because we left off in an interesting place. Last we played Finger Gang. You found yourselves, after wandering through the dark warrens of the rat tunnels, in Koltaram's Ring of Silver, the middle upper class section of the Dwarven city, and the area holding the majority of Koltaram's forges. Heinrich, you spoke with Nia, the tiefling that your group had rescued from some cruel fate at the hands of Smashjaw, the unhinged jawed dwarf who has those 3 massive wolves following him that Morwen was able to talk straight through. She told you that she was part of a group of tieflings, refugees fleeing the kingdom of Sarentil, fleeing the oppression, or at the very least, the being unwelcome within the kingdom of Sarentil that comes with being a tiefling after the events of the Tear in the early 1100s Third Age. She told you, or you noticed, that she was wearing a medallion. And as you asked about it, she brought it out and told you that it stood for Helm, this god that was worshipped by the person leading their group. When you asked about this person's name, after hearing that they were from Portcoin as well, they told you that they had renounced their name and went only by Pilgrim. Krodok escorted Nia back down and towards the Undercity, but before departing, Nia asked that you help the rest of her group, still locked within the Halls of Atonement, should the opportunity present itself. Meanwhile, Gunter and Morwen, along with Helia Coldrot, the daughter of a powerful crime family from the Undercity, scattered out their surroundings, searching for a way toward the Ring of Gold. You came across the bell tower of Yor, and from that location, scouted out your surroundings just a little bit more. You saw a cable stretching out into the smoke that hangs forever within the Ring of Silver, lit by a million fires that seem to create an almost permanent dusk or dawn. You saw A little bit off to a different side, a number of different houses that were still intact. But more pressingly, you saw the, it's like I'm speaking in the middle of a large room, hang on. But more importantly, you saw this large structure stretching up and out of sight into a chasm between the wall of the mountain and the sort of area which was holding a number of doorways, stairways, ladders that stretch up, bolted into the stone itself. And this massive sprawling structure you guys discovered was called the Dawnfather's Ziggurat. You scouted it out and put together a number of different plans. Gunter, you initially attempted to create a distraction and missed firing arrows 3 times from the darkness. Until Heinrich, you finally, with one shot, were able to knock down the same thing, causing enough of a distraction for you all to bum rush your way inside.
I lose.
Barrick, sure. As far, I mean, you know where your arrows went, except for one of them, so you know that you didn't. But once inside, you found your way into a series of maintenance tunnels or ducts. And after crawling through them for some time, came across a very interesting sight. Gunter, you especially took some convincing to leave, but you found through a series of vents, there is a like a ceremonial weapons room of some kind. And within this place, Helia told you, Gunter, or confided within you, there were often relics or powerful items hidden away. But with a little bit of convincing from the group, you were pulled forward and into a chamber that seemed to lead to a dead end, save a single ladder that stretched up. You being just sick of being stuck within these tiny caverns, requiring you to crawl on hands and knees, immediately made your way up the ladder. At the same time, Gunter, Morwin, and Shay, the 3 of you discovered, after looking at the tracks a little closer, that there was a footprint that seemed to disappear into the wall ahead of you. And at the same time, the stones yawned open with jagged teeth sticking out of either side. And Heinrich, you began to be attacked by a mimic. And that's where we're going to start.
Yeah.
So I need everybody to roll initiative. The mimic is going to get a surprise attack.
Natural 20 already.
Natural 20.
Oh,
Prepared for
also
this
natural 20. Woohoo. Gunty.
I'm not lying, I threw that as soon as you described the tunnel and I remembered where we were.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Gunty. Oh, hit something evilly.
And it's good that this mimic is getting a surprise round because I don't think he's going to last.
Good. I don't want him to.
All right. All right, so we already have Gunter, natural 20. Heinrich, what was yours?
Natural 20.
20
23.
as well. So Heinrich, you're going before Gunter. I'm guessing.
I think
Who has the lower dexterity?
+0.
yeah, I got +3.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
I'm nimble, but not strong, which is ironic for medium to heavy armor wearers. But hey, whatever.
The walks are different. Anybody 25 to 20?
21.
21, 21. Shay, what are you?
12.
Oh, look at Shay.
Wow.
Oh,
It's alright, you're
I
saving
just imagined
the real
it's-
important rolls, though. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so the mimic is going to go first because it is getting this surprise attack. Let's see here. So you crawling up, it has to move. We'll say it has to move like 5 feet down. You notice that as it stretches open this long purple tongue with these warts that seem to kind of dot the surface, and as the tongue bursts out, bits of stone and mortar burst out onto your face, and as they hit, it becomes damp and moist like saliva, and it's just this face hanging out in front of you, and it is going to attempt to attack you. It's going to attempt to bite you. That is going to be that's going to be a 20 to hit.
Yep.
And I need you to make a athletics check. It's attempting to grapple you, or it's attempting to adhere to you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's 6.
Yeah, it definitely beats you. That's going to be it's a 14 only, but it still definitely beats you. So you are going to take 6 points of piercing damage, and you are now considered grappled. The tongue actually comes down, and as it it yells out this sort of, it wraps around you with the tongue and starts pulling you up. Your hands leave the ladder itself. For the 3 of you, you look up and you can now see It is this mimic that seems to be almost extending from the wall. Parts of the skin still textured stone going up into the ceiling itself. That is its turn. Heinrich, what do you want to do?
I mean, the first reaction is just to hit it and try to knock it off the wall.
Yeah,
I don't
go for
want
it.
to attack me. It's more like a surprise thing. I'm not particularly.
Sure, yeah.
Tactics.
It's a surprise attack. Really
It did. It's so surprising.
It's very effective.
All right, so both bolts of the Eldritch Blast. First one is a 21.
21 hits.
Second one is a higher than that, 23.
That also hits. Roll for damage.
Plus, so that's where. All right, hold on. Da, da, da. Okay. And that is 13. No, 12 points of damage. Force damage.
12 points of damage.
And
Okay.
I'm gonna try to like push it 10 feet away from me because like I'm like on the top, or am I still climbing?
I mean, you're very close to the top. You're at the point where, like, directly next to this mimic, there is the area that seems to pass out and beyond. There is what looks like look, you can definitely see light coming from outside.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be firelight, but yeah.
So like as it's grappling me, I'm just gonna like try to shoot its tongue off using that push, but I'm certain that won't work. But it's just more thematic of like, Papa!
Okay. And so as you like fire upwards, it strikes into it, and you're gonna push it 10 feet.
For just because I can.
All right, hang on one sec. Okay, so as it moves, I mean, there's nowhere really for it to move straight up because it is attached to the ceiling.
Right.
So it kind of shunts to the side. Go ahead and make an athletics check because it sort of has to struggle to grab onto you.
Oh, fucking natural 20. Hell yeah.
So the force seems to kind of like surprise it, and the tongue around, like releasing you. You are kind of falling. I'll say without too much trouble, you're able to grab onto the ladder,
Sure.
like a rung down from where you
I would
were.
have even accepted a dex save, but thank you for
No,
that.
no, easy. It's easy. It barely got you. Anything else? Because you still have your movement.
I feel like I'm gonna drop down and kind of like start to usher everyone back towards, I don't know, just like put myself in between them.
Okay, so as you see the Eldritch Blast into this thing, Heinrich lets go, and the scales all clinking as you hit the ground. Anything else on your turn?
With the equivalent of a bonus action's time, be like back and like gesture.
Okay. Heinrich yells back, Gunter, what do you want to do more when you're on deck?
I think I'm gonna be like, I got this. Still got the crossbow. I'm gonna
Okay.
Oh God,
shoot
don't
a heavy
me.
crossbow
Sure. Okay.
at the mimic. It's
So
what,
even as Heinrich lands his cloak, the half cloak that he wears, like, and it kind of like gets in your face, it's going to be a pretty tricky shot. But yeah, I'm sure you can do it. You guys are in a 3-foot tall kind of cavern, just coming out to where you guys can stand. Go ahead. Yeah, roll your attack.
I'm gonna it's like up above, right?
Yeah.
If I like scooch up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, you can occupy the same space that Heinrich's occupying for this moment. You have to kind of step back afterwards. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you push the cloak out of your face and bring the crossbow to bear.
Yeah. All right. Gonna load this thing up.
Oh no.
Uh,
He's really loading.
What was that, Hunter? I mean, Gunter?
17.
17 hits. Go ahead and roll damage.
Nice. He might be. Is he?
I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. It's not.
That's 6.
A 6? Yeah. Okay, hang on. one sec.
Hey.
Hey, that's like almost max commoner damage. Right?
Yeah.
So as this thing goes to the side, you push Heinrich's cloak out, you pull it up, and the arrow flies out, and you can see it strikes. There's another as it turns to the side, and now you can see its attention. You don't see eyes, but the face is kind of squared with you.
Oh.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna duck back and vamos.
Okay, so you shuffle down 10 feet and kind of back your way down.
Following Heinrich back to group up.
Okay. That is your turn. Morwen, it is now your turn. Shay, you're on deck.
How high up is the mimic?
Maybe 15 feet.
Hmm.
You guys are in this very, very low tunnel that you've been crawling through, and then it opens up in like a 5-foot shaft with the ladder attached to it. So it's kind of up at the top of that. Not a 5-foot shaft. It's about 10 feet long. There's the place for the ladder to go up, and then the mimic. So it's a very small space.
So, but like from where it's attached to like where I could reach it, it's 15 feet
Yes.
from the ground up.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
Just about.
Oh.
Give or take.
What are you
Do
doing?
it. Go ahead. Do it.
Well, we'll see if I'm able to do all of this in one turn. I want to kind of like cheerlead move onto Heinrich's shoulders and like jump off and swipe at it.
Okay. Go ahead and make a acrobatics check.
You told me to get back. I don't listen good.
Not get on my back.
So as Gunter goes like scooting down the little tunnel, Morwen leaps up onto your shoulders.
Ah!
That is a mathing. I'm usually good at this. It's a 19.
19 leaps up onto your shoulders. You stagger a little bit, the scales clattering together. And then Morwen, as soon as she kind of lands, you feel her tense, and then the weight disappears. Go ahead and roll your attack. I'm going to say, so this is, you're using a bonus action as an attack? Okay.
I would assume so. That's the only way I can do this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I guess I can only putz. Pass. I can't putz.
correct.
Okay.
Oh, it's still not bad.
Yeah. Man, I'm not good at math
I mean,
right
it's
now.
more than
24.
17. That's for
24 definitely hits, yeah.
Wait, guys, I swear I'll learn one day. Do I get my sneak attack bonus?
You normally would, however, because you're at disadvantage from leaping off of Heinrich's shoulders to attack, it's just a flat roll, so you do not get sneak attack.
That's not surprising. Okay, fine.
Oh, fuck, max damage.
13.
It's like one of
13.
those rare
Literally
moments
rolled
where
the
you
eight.
don't get it.
Yeah.
So
Who
as
was
soon
Glad
as
I
her
didn't
weight,
assume.
as soon as her weight leaves your shoulder, you hear this kind of, and you hear the thing again as it was hissing out at Gunter. This kind of grows silent, and a little bit of the tongue kind of falls past your face,
Yeah.
Heinrich. Before all of a sudden you feel on your shoulders again. Morwen, do you want to stay up on Heinrich's shoulders, or what are you doing?
Nah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna retreat.
Okay.
I'm
You
gonna
drop
listen
down,
now.
and you get about 5 feet down the tunnel before you have to stop because you just see Gunter's butt wriggling its way through. That is your turn. Shay, it is your turn, then the mimic.
How high up is it?
15 feet.
Still? Okay.
Easy enough. I'm gonna crawl up and hit it, because why not?
Okay. Are you crawling up the wall or the ladder? Because you can do either.
Or the Heinrich.
Or the Heinrich
Or the
Morwen.
You
Heinrich.
have free outfits.
I look at you and I'm just like, no.
Oh, I wish I stayed on his shoulders and Shay crawled onto mine. And it's just
And
3
we're just
people
like-
like,
It closer to the wall or to the ladder?
It's closer to the wall.
I'm going up the wall then.
All right. So all of a sudden, Morwen, as you duck into the tunnel, you just feel the air shift as Shay moves up the wall, just running straight up the side.
It's 24 to hit.
Go ahead and 24, that hits. Roll damage.
8.
So you lead with one uppercut as you leap off the side of the brick, kicking off, and you hit it square in what looks like stone, but as your knuckles hit, it gives away. It's much softer than it seems. That is 8 points of damage, you said?
Yes.
All right.
Second hit's 21.
21 hits.
For 6.
6 points of damage. So
All right.
there's the uppercut followed promptly by like a left hook. And at this point, your momentum has stopped. You're just floating up in the air.
And 26.
26 hits also, believe it or not. Roll damage.
Holy shit.
You can see like parts of the stone are now shifting up into this strange, like purple flesh, and it's seeming to almost like drip off of the ceiling. It's looking pretty rough.
It's 9 points for the last hit.
9 points, okay. At this point, Shay, you leap up and tell us how it happens.
Oh,
That's a lot of damage in one round.
yeah.
With very few resources burned.
It just kind of like disintegrates.
Okay, so Shay, you give it the uppercut and then the left hook, and as your momentum slows, you spin around and bring your heel down and slam into it. The entire purple mass just splattering on the ground. Heinrich, it just gets all over your
Damn it, I
legs.
just cleaned my boots from that blood.
I'm
You can
like,
see the tongue kind of rolls up off the ground one last time, and it just kind of dies on the ground. Bits of purple ichor leaking onto the floor. And I would say, actually, because you are closest to it at this moment as you land, Shay, into this now very wet place, and you guys are now out of initiative. You see the blood kind of run and then hit the wall, and instead of beginning to pool, it seems to just continue.
Down in, like, past the wall.
Yes.
Well, shit, guys. Sorry about that. I think I woke
Morwen's
up
still on
with
your
something.
shoulders.
Oh no, I crawled back to.
Oh, you crawled back. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
right,
Yeah.
I had
Well,
Gunter's butt in my face.
Great fucking job, team. Wow. It didn't even
I'm gonna
really get to go that much.
try to retrieve the bolt and see if anything else oozed out.
Okay. So as you're doing that, all of a sudden, Morwen, you see Gunter stop, and then in this incredibly small space, he kind of like it's almost like a slinky. He kind of condenses together and turns around in the space, and you're just face to face with bald
Oh,
Gunter with a single hair
I'm
coming
gonna
out.
start climbing up the ladder to
that's
make
much
room.
better than what I thought
Okay.
that you were gonna say.
No, Heinrich, you
So you
begin to go
stopped
up the ladder.
He stops abruptly, but I keep going, and I'm just like looking somewhere else. It's just like,
That might actually be fatal. So yeah, Heinrich begins to go up the ladder. Gunter,
I'll make
you
some room, you guys.
need to get by Morwen. Morwen's kind of taking up the entirety of this space.
I'm trying to scooch.
okay, then I'll turn around, and now he has to look at my cat butt.
Okay, so you turn around, just this little, right there.
Well,
Uh,
I'm wearing pants, but we've all seen.
Yeah,
what
but
it
if there's
looks
a
like for months.
hole for the tail, I feel like
It's
it's
a very
probably.
fitting pair of pants. Right?
Oh, okay, sure.
I still like I've seen it enough. I know what this is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have pants for like 4 months, so.
That's true. It's Quest,
Yeah, the first
I
art
forgot
was
about
Pants
that.
Quest. The
Yeah,
actual
I forgot about
first
Pants
art.
Quest. Well, it's because you guys stranded yourselves on an island for weeks.
Right, and what's the first thing you need on an island is pants.
Pants, of course. Yeah. No, it's my first. Every time I'm going to go on vacation, I'm like, all right, pants.
So
So Shay, you now are standing in the kind of shaft that leads up with the ladder. You can see Heinrich going up. Kind of almost between your legs now. Gunter scurries out from the other side of the tunnel and begins. You see his hands just into the ichor. And Gunter, go ahead and make an investigation check. You pick up your bolts out. It's kind of covered in purple goo, but you shake it off.
That's a 19.
19. Okay. I mean, digging through, you don't find any like loot. This is a creature. But you do find, in terms of like things that you might harvest, in terms of like a body part or whatever, there are like these long teeth, each about 2 inches long, and they begin kind of rounded, almost like almost needles, actually. You can see the tongue kind of lolling out where it died, the tip cleanly cut off. Every now and then you can see it still kind of twitches a little bit. But aside from that, it's looking pretty gooey at this point. It's not, and even as you see it, it's kind of like deflating onto the ground, and more of this purple stuff. Not actually blood. It seems almost as if the material that makes up its form is just melting. I would say also with the 19, Gunter, you kind of like, you need to get up and you pull yourself up on the wall. And as you do, your hand kind of runs into the seam between the bricks, and it's a little deeper than it should be. And as you pull your weight up, you feel this, and this entire wall in front of you that this blood had begun to run under.
Hidden wall. Found a hidden wall. Look up. Got it.
It's a fairly small room beyond. There is what looks like a 30-foot long by 10-foot wide room, very narrow. There are what look like 3 other doors aside from the one that you just opened. Each one has like a silver button, a square almost, that's put up, and it is silver, not silver color. This looks to be actual silver.
Oh.
In the middle of the room there is there's a wombat, slightly trembling, small. It's looking up at you. It has this little bit of a root kind of dangling out of its mouth. It seems to be pulling out of what looks like a burlap bag that's been fairly carefully placed on the floor. And as it sees you, Gunter, and like the door opens up, it just kind of makes this sound, and it begins to kind of like posture at you. It's only about a foot tall, so it's not terribly threatening, but it seems to almost take up this defensive stance in front of the bag.
All right.
Oh.
I'm gonna be like, because this is weird. Why is there?
You've never seen even you, Gunter, I would say probably you've never seen a wombat.
Yeah, what the fuck is this like rat thing? It's like a fat beaver rat.
And you can see as it bares its teeth, there are these two little like long teeth that come down. It has a sort of dappled, it's brown fur, but it has almost like this gray fringe around the face. The little root now drops off, and you can see now that it stood up a little bit. Behind it in the bag, there's like a bag of these little roots, almost like rations for this creature.
Okay. This is such a weird thing for me. I'm gonna try to like.
Heinrich, are you still going up?
Yeah, but I remember there was like a hall and a door with a lock on it, so we can get back to
Okay.
I'm gonna.
if he's doing
I'm gonna
something
take
about it,
out
Sure.
the yellow berry that I still have.
Okay.
Oh, the fucking the shrooms, right? More or less.
No, the
Yes.
one that kills people. I'm not gonna feed it to him. It's bright. He probably likes bright colored things. It's like,
So you're just gonna tease him with death.
Okay, Gunter. So you see Gunter, Shay and Morwen. You see Gunter pull out. He ruffles through his pockets, and bits of dust kind of come out, and he pulls out this single, now kind of shriveled yellow berry. It's desiccated to the point where it looks almost like an insect corpse, but it is still bright. And you hold it out and kind of shake it. Make an animal handling check.
Oh.
Wow, we never get animal handling checks.
I know. I was
Well,
like,
good
what?
thing Gunty's got a +4 because
There you
that's
go. It's a useful-
21.
All right.
Shit.
So you can see before where it's making this, it kind of stops, and the mouth closes, and
Oh wait, that's old.
it kind of.
Gunty actually has a +5 now.
Oh, okay. So that's a what, 22?
22. So not a difference maker.
So it
but-
kind of takes one step forward. Its whole form kind of waddles. It's a little rounder than you. Well, none of you have seen a wombat, but it's a pretty rotund wombat. But it makes its way over to you. And Gunter, as it moves from the bag, you can now see a little bit more into the bag. You see elements of smith's tools hanging out of this thing.
Ah.
But it comes up to you, kind of sniffing at this berry, and it kind of reaches out very, very hesitantly. First, the paw comes out, the little tiny claws, kind of just making these simple motions to try to get it, and then it reaches out to try to eat it.
I'm gonna not let him eat it. And
Okay.
then try to non-violently, but like, capture him so that he can't run away.
Okay. With your animal handling check, you kind of like pull it away, and you put your hand
And then
on
I'm gonna feed him something that's not gonna kill him.
Okay. It crawls into your hand. It's still kind of making these really soft little guinea pig style grunts. And you kind of pull it in, and you're able to hold it. It's kind of hefty. It's heavier than it looks. It's a very dense animal.
I'm holding him up like an old pig.
And it has this kind of scent to it that's almost like wet dog. But you hold him out. It's kind of looking at you inquisitively. And what are you feeding it?
I think I'm gonna give it. I don't know. Does it like funky mushrooms? Old, shriveled up mushrooms that are like a year old.
Well, in game, they're only 2.5 months.
Oh, I think those also just like pulverized into dust and blew away in the wind at some point.
So while you're kind of figuring out what to feed this creature and you're going through your belongings, is anybody else doing anything?
Oh, I have an idea. Heinrich, make berries. We found a friend.
I'm like up and walking, like
I'm gonna take out a little nibble of
shout
some
it.
ration. And give him some ration.
Okay, so Gunter, you begin pulling out a ration. Meanwhile, Heinrich, as you get to the top, anybody from the top would see like the antlers kind of poking out first and then the head. You look out and you're on a little bit of a platform, almost a stone landing, and it kind of drops off. And below, you can see spreading out before you elements of the ring of silver. Although up here, the smoke is so thick, it is actually kind of hard to see down. It gets into your nose, it stings, it's acrid, it's heavy. Above, there is a brilliant light across and above, maybe 400 feet away. There is a right in front of you, a dangling wood plank rope bridge, only about 30 feet long. And on the other side of it, there's a similar landing. This landing has what looks like a tent made out of animal hides put up on it, no bigger than maybe 10 feet across. Beyond that, there is a beautiful staircase. The staircase seems to be made out of almost pure white marble. And the staircase kind of goes up once and then switches back, goes up and then flattens out for a little bit before it seems to crest up and over a hill where a brilliant light is coming from. This light, not like anything I believe any of you have seen before. This is something incredibly radiant to the point where it's almost like a sun cresting the horizon. Aside from that, you don't see much, but then suddenly you hear Morwen.
I'd look back down and be like, sorry, hold on a second.
Give me berries.
We already ate today. Hold on. And then I'm going to look. So this rope bridge extends over the city, which is far below, you say, right?
If you take like a step over and look down and over, you could see it's kind of dizzying. It drops down.
Yeah.
And you can see now the Dawnfather Ziggurat, it does gradually go out so that there are elements that you could below you stand on.
Okay.
You can see, I mean, you're probably about 200 feet up at this point, but you can see elements of where you were. You can see there's a large group of kobolds. They have not made it into this doorway.
Good.
They're not very strong creatures, and because of the width of the door, I did a little bit of math. They cannot open it without going around a longer way. So there's just kind of a larger group. But looking straight down, there's probably about an 80-foot drop until there is what looks like almost a temporary platform that's been set up. There are tools on it that have been abandoned a long time ago. You can see there is like a faint level of dust over them from the smoke that's been falling, but that's pretty much what you see.
Okay. And across, how far is this rope bridge until the other platform across the...
It's about 30 feet.
Okay. And there's a tent made of animal hide?
About 5 feet beyond from the bridge, yeah.
Right. Any signs of movement or something, like any people or...
Make a perception check. It's at about this time that like Gunter is picking up the creature and beginning to kind of like try to feed it something.
Yeah, so that's a 19. I'm rolling really well tonight so far.
You get up and you lower yourself down so that the smoke is a little bit above the ground and you get a clearer vantage point out. You can see this is not a well-made tent. This isn't something that's been like produced. These are like animals that have been hunted and strung over a very loose wooden framework. It is not of a high quality. Sure. And you can see elements beneath it. You can see laying down, almost pressed against the side, the body of a kobold. And you can see the side rise and fall very slowly for a kobold, probably sleeping. Given how close it is, pushed to the wall, you would imagine there's a number of them sleeping in there.
Okay, noted. And then the way up where the mimic was blocking.
So that was just like flat. It was a 5-foot flat panel ceiling.
Oh, I thought you said that there was. Oh, so the brilliant light is only coming from this only.
That's coming from across. It's coming from across the bridge and up that stairs.
So this is also the point of egress from this tunnel so far that I've seen.
From this vantage point,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. So there's just like a little recessed area where the mimic was hanging out. Okay, I'll kind of go back and like poke my head over and just relay that information quietly, and also be like, "Shh, sleeping kobolds over there."
So Shay, as you see Heinrich kind of lean over and whisper down that there are sleeping kobolds, you can see Morwen's attention focus forward and Gunter holding this little creature. Is there anything that you want to do?
No.
Okay, hanging out, maintaining the status quo. Meanwhile, Gunter, is there anything that you wish to do with this little creature?
Yeah, so I'm like, why is there...
Oh, you froze.
Why is it here? I'm assuming is what he was asking. That's
yeah, why is it here?
Yeah.
Are you guys there?
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, okay. I was saying, why is this creature in a bag with Smith's tools behind a hidden door. And then there's the silver. This is some sort of puzzle or something. I'm thinking. So like I'm trying to figure out like what's going on with all this stuff.
Make an investigation check.
Ooh, that's a 3.
Maybe it lives here. Maybe that's its bag. It's hard to tell. It doesn't make a lot of sense to you. None of this structure really makes a lot of sense. Why are these tunnels here? You haven't really discerned a reason for it. You haven't really discerned why there would be a hidden wall here. And your attention kind of keeps going back to the bag. You do dig through the bag a little bit, and you can see now, the first thing that happens is as you get near it, this creature again begins to kind of make that sound, and you have to kind of step back. But after getting close to it and kind of trying to show with your animal handling check before that you're not like a threat, you kind of look into it and you can see there's a smaller bag, also made out of green leather, very well worn, and tooled into it in Dwarvish are the words "Doug's Treats." There is a set of Smith's tools, and then there is a set of very like charred, blackened, and well-used Smith's gloves, canvas. There is a mess kit, which has like a little multi-purpose kind of steel, like a tray kind of, and what is essentially like a spork. You also find 3 tins of sardines.
Okay.
And if it matters, these are called tin scale sardines. They're from Stoneflow.
All right. And it was gloves and Smith's tools. But they were charred.
Functionally, it's a set of Smith's tools, and then a set of Smith's gloves.
Okay.
Yeah, and the treats.
Okay.
There are 6
I'm
treats.
like, oh, you must be Doug, and take out a treat and give Doug his treat.
As you say, Doug, the face turns to you, confirming that is its name, and you give it a treat. Its hands go out, and it misses the first couple times, but eventually, the very undexterous hands grab onto it, and it begins gnawing on this root.
All right. Well, let's go. Hey, there's something down here. Hidden door, hidden wall, silver stuff. I don't know. You saw the rat thing, right? Its name is Doug.
Do I see this from looking over the edge?
No, that's past where you are. So this is where so this is the end of the tunnel that's now opened into a separate room.
Cool.
You guys see all this?
I'm gonna try to pet Doug.
Okay, so more when you go through the door and into this room, you can see that there's 3 other doorways leading out.
It's cool, Doug. She's cool.
You can see as Gunter says that, it looks up at Gunter and then looks at you, and it's holding this kind of root thing. It begins to chew on it again.
His name's Doug.
You
Hi,
pet
Doug.
him. The fur is a little stiffer than you would imagine it would be, but otherwise not like harmful. As you say hi, Doug, it looks at you and its nose wiggles a little bit. The whiskers kind of moving.
I think it's a new species.
I'm gonna climb down
like 'em.
at this point, seeing that people are disappearing underneath where I just climbed up.
Okay, from back in the tunnel behind all of you, still unable to get out because of the space that you guys are all taking. Helia kind of speaking out. I can't really see what it is. Is this a gibbon?
No, I don't think it's a gibbon. Maybe it's like it kind of looks like a rat beaver. Maybe like a...
duck.
I don't think I've ever heard of a rat beaver.
No, me neither. I think it's a new species. I think I've discovered a new species. That's
It's
what...
called a Doug.
It's called
No.
a Doug, is what you're saying?
No, it's his name. He likes treats. He's got
Or it
these
could be
roots.
the species too. Could be the same.
I guess that's true.
It's a Doug, named Doug.
Shay, are you staying where you are? Are you moving into the room? Or are you going anywhere?
I think I would put myself into a space not in the way, but not moving ahead of anybody necessarily, if that makes sense.
So you guys are all cramped into this spot. Gunter and Morwen, you are the only 2 that are in this kind of room. Heinrich, you are above, and Morwen, Shay, you and Helia are in this very, very cramped space.
So-
as I'm like climbing down, be like, is there a place we can go in? Can we make room or something so I can come?
I'm
down
gonna.
through?
There are 3 doors, right? And because I had a terrible investigation, I don't. They're just doors to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm going through. Which one am I closest to with Doug right now?
So the one that you entered through is on the western side.
Okay.
There is a door on the north, the east, and the south. For
Okay.
you don't see any difference between them.
I'm just 50-50. Here,
50,
we'll
50,
do this.
50-50-50.
50-50-50.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll take the first door on the left.
Door number
So that would be the
one.
north
So
door.
north.
Yeah, the northern.
So
face door.
Gunter, you go and you depress this silver button, and as you do, the stone, much like the door behind you that you had opened up, kind of and opens. You can see beyond it. There is maybe like a foot of stone lip, and then it just drops. And as it opens, also the wind kind of hits you. It doesn't smell terribly good. There is a scent of not rot or anything. It's kind of like garbage, stale garbage. And this space, it's just dark. And at first, it seems like it's just like a black room. But as your dark vision adjusts, you can see it just goes down and down and down. And it seems as if there's no end. But then you realize it's because it curves ever so slightly, and then
It's
out
like a
of your
trash chute or an abyss.
that is what you see.
It's like both. Okay, I'm gonna like carefully scooch in and be like, actually no. I'm gonna go check out another door. This one smells like garbage.
Okay, so you back up
Like
and you move forward, and what are you doing?
I'm gonna press the one north, so east now.
Okay, you go over to the east door, and you do notice something as you approach this door because it's a little different than the others. Whereas the others don't have any real labels or anything, this one does. There's a symbol. It's like a small disc that's etched into the stone itself. There's like, it's dwarvish essentially, and what it says is the blessing of dawn.
Oh.
Just opening it up.
Yeah, I like dawn.
Okay, you press the button. This one again. And this time, in front of you, you can see they seem to be carved out of the same gray stone that the rest of the Dawnfather Ziggurat is crafted out of. But you see stairs that lead up, and then they kind of turn to the right and go up. And you would imagine they kind of continue upwards.
I found the blessing of dawn. I think this is the way. Shall we be blessed by dawn?
Sure. Who's Dawn?
I don't know. Maybe it's Doug's owner.
Oh, Doug. Okay.
You can see like Helia now entering the space is sort of looking around at these doors. Doesn't seem to say anything.
What's the third door look like?
So as you watch Gunter open all these doors more, and you kind of peel off and go to the final door, make an investigation check.
I'm gonna put Doug on my shoulder and give him another root.
Okay, you put him on your shoulder, you give him another root. What was your roll, Mormon?
20, dirty 20.
Dirty 20. With a dirty 20. So this door, it has no markings on it. And you look at it, and you look at the one that Gunter just opened, there's a little label. You can't read it, there's a little label. And then you look back over your shoulder, and all the other doors have little symbols. Although they're like etched into the stone. Fairly faintly, but easy enough to pick out. It's not Thieves' Camp, but it has a similar feel. This is some kind of a system. You see in the west doorway, the one that you came through, it's marked by what looks like a little, like a tiny little plate mail, like a plate mail etching. And you can see from the uneven, jagged marks, this was like carved with a dagger. The north door, there's just an X marked next to it. The east door, the one that has those stairs that rise up, has is the only one with an actual like metal symbol that's put on the wall. And then the door that you are looking at has no etching next to it. And as you kind of consider that, you also begin to look down, and you can see of all of them, and there's like a faint little layer of not ash, but like bits of gray powder that are coming from the smoke just constantly kind of flooding through. and you notice that it's a little bit disturbed around this door. It's been gone through recently.
Hey, I feel like I found the guy we were following in the first place.
The crawling.
Yeah.
And Gunter, from your standpoint, Gunter, you're seeing now as Morwen is kind of looking at this door and nearing it and kind of investigating. Doug is paying very close attention, like holding the root still, but now just paying very close attention to Morwen.
Hey, buddy. What, you want to go that way?
Look, it looks like this has been recently disturbed.
Oh, what do you mean? I'm gonna go take a look at.
Okay. You
Okay.
kind of waddle over.
With Doug still on my shoulder, so I'm like, hey, yeah, come
Like
on.
a parrot, but it's a wombat.
Yeah.
You
Can I have
feel
Nathan down
Doug.
here by now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
It's
I'm
15 feet.
gonna close the
I feel like
garage door because it smells
Maybe
bad.
he's
Walk over.
Like, what the hell is that smell? And just like figure out a way to close this door.
And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
think
just
to
the same
myself-
button works.
And when he does that, I'm gonna think to myself, being like, "Oh, it was the door. I thought it was Gunter this whole time. I just felt, too rude to say anything."
It's very warm down here. The sulfurs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe he's like on my head to kind of give me a semblance of hair.
Sure. As you go over to the door that Morwen's at, he kind of like drops the root. You hear it onto the ground, and he crawls up your neck and then onto your head. For you, Gunter, this is like a good amount of weight. It's like having like a full plate mail helm on,
Cool.
but just kind of balanced up there. And he does have little claws that are kind of like holding on a little bit. It's not
Yeah,
damaging you, but it's not terribly comfortable.
Yeah, I
as
probably
you
don't feel too much.
Fair enough. As you draw closer, what are you trying to do with this door?
I guess so. You haven't actually opened it yet. What were you trying to point out to me?
That it looks like someone had passed through here recently, and it might be the same guy whose footsteps we saw earlier.
I'm gonna take a look around and see what she's looking at, and then open the door.
Okay.
Presumably the same way that I opened the other doors.
Yeah, you press the button and it opens. Beyond this door, you can see that there are, similar to what you guys came through previously, this very, very low vent, kind of 3 feet tall. It goes onwards, and here you can see clearly, because there is a good amount of soot that's sort of sitting on the ducts here. There's like these wriggle marks as if somebody crawled through. And Gunter, you pick out handprints in the ash, dwarven handprints.
So what is this where you and your owner came, Doug?
The wombat just kind of looks at you, and you're unsure as whether or not it's actual communication, but it seems to almost nod.
I
Why don't
feel
you try putting him on the ground and see if he goes in? We could follow Doug for a bit.
I mean, you know what my answer is for that, but
Yeah, let's keep him. You're right.
I'm gonna nudge.
well, I'm
I'm gonna
looking
nudge
more.
Elia and be like, "Hey, so this door, opening looks like it's going up. We're still heading up, right?"
That was my plan, yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to just go up? Do you have a new friend? And
Well,
I
we
don't know.
shouldn't. I don't want to take Doug
That's-
upstairs.
I mean, I
you
kinda
can leave if he has plenty of food. He was in here to begin with. Whoever's his
getting taken
caretaker
care
is
of.
going to. come
Oh,
back.
I see. So,
Yeah.
so we have to escort the person that I saved, that you decide to escort, leaving Craddock to do this, but we can't spend a moment to take care of this poor defenseless creature. Okay, I see how it is, Heinrich. That's fine. Here's your bag of treats, Doug. Have a nice life.
And so as you drop the treats, Doug also kind of jumps off your head, lands on the ground, and he looks at you, Gunter, and then he begins to kind of like
A
totter
single tear
down.
sheds down my face.
Sure, runs down little bits of ash kind of
Fine.
in the tear. And Doug begins to kind of wander down the tunnel that Morwen you had just opened, or that you had investigated that Gunter had opened. Walks about 5 feet in, and then Gunter he stops, and you can see the little face turn around and look over the shoulder, and he gives one last.
I mean, you can follow him, please, by all means.
Helia
I
looks
don't
at you,
even know. Is
Heinrich.
time of the essence right now? It seems like
Helia looks at you, Heinrich, and
Oh my
says,
god, Matt's face right now.
Matt's frozen.
"Yeah,
face.
frozen, perfect time.
Pretty good.
If we are going to leave without looking for the owner of this creature, we should take the creature with us. It will only die down here. We've seen what walks these halls."
Very good point. Well, it looks to be heading in the direction of potentially its owner. Maybe we could just lead it back to the owner and then
I'm
be on our way.
trying not to look back, but then I'm like, I'm going. Who am I kidding? I'm
You can see
going. I'm
Helia's
following
about to
Doug.
reach out and put a hand on you, and she goes, "Yeah, Gunther, why don't you go?" And then as she says that, you just run down
I'm
the little
like,
path. You have to duck down, hands
Let's
in
go
knees.
down.
You grab Doug, his little as you pick him up, and then you kind of take him with you. He seems to pull away a little bit, but as you bring him back, Gunter emerges, little bits of soot in his knees, and one Doug in his hand.
All
Aren't
right.
you just gonna follow him?
Yeah, I
See where
wanted to
his
follow him. I wanted to see
Oh, you're
where
gonna
he was
follow
going.
him.
Yeah, I want to see where he's going.
Yeah, because
Okay,
I was
are the rest of you guys waiting for-
I was about to turn
No,
to Shay
I'll
and be like,
follow,
yeah.
but I want to also close the door behind us of like how we got in here in the first place.
Okay, so you turn around. You can see there's a similar silver button. You press it, and the door shuts.
And then I open it
there
up
are now
again.
two doors open.
Sorry, Shay, do you want to come in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So as a group, you guys are going.
No, I think I'm going to turn to Shay and be like, so I think Gunter and Morwen have another side project, which is to return this poor animal to its owner.
Wombat quest.
It's
I
a
don't even
rat
know.
beaver. It's a
Should we?
It's a
should we
bat.
help them? I feel like we could probably just
it's a
wait here. I don't want
reaver.
to go back down in the tunnel. Those stairs look nice and comfortable.
It makes no difference to me.
Perfect. And then I'll sit down. I'll be like, all right.
Ilya
here."
looks like back and forth at you guys, and she says, for once, I think I'm going to stay with you. I don't have any dog in this fight, nor a rat beaver or whatever it is." And she
Sure,
sits
sure.
down as well. Meanwhile, Gunter and Morwen, the two of you follow Doug down this tunnel. Every now and then you hear the little grunts of the animal as it makes its way through. You come to a T intersection, but Doug just goes right, and so you follow Doug. Eventually, you make your way to an area where there is all of a sudden bits of light, and maybe 30 feet away is this little shaft that you can see down, similar to the one that you'd seen before, above the ceremonial forge room.
Oh,
And even from this distance, even from 30 feet down the shaft, you can hear the chatter of various kobolds. You hear clanging of metal.
jeez.
You hear this kind of and then you hear this kind of clatter as rock hits the ground and seems to shatter across what is probably a stone floor. You hear the sound of a metal hammer on more metal, but it seems fairly cacophonous. It's not like a forge necessarily.
Okay.
Let's take it easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of keep. I'm gonna keep Doug from going too far up, and try to muffle him a bit, calm him down, give him some of his snacks, and I'm gonna make.
Doesn't seem interested in snacks at this point, but he is pretty.
All right, and then I'm gonna inch my way so I can kind of get a look at presumably what's below us.
Okay, so Gunter is like football holding Doug the wombat, and kind of crawling through, and you get over. Make a stealth check, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
doing
do
this
the same since
sneakily.
I'm right behind him.
That's an 8.
Okay.
That's 27.
It's
Okay.
hard to be sneaky with a wombat.
It is.
Man.
You have to. You're kind of clanging into the sides of the tunnel as you crawl, but without too much of an issue, you guys get to this actual space and you look down. Actually, I will send you a picture of what you see.
Yeah.
I will
really
post this
perfect
in
words.
our. Gotta find the right one. Here we are.
There, I'll send a picture of a wombat
Oh, wombat to who?
to the group.
Ah, okay. Somebody wants to post that in Twitch chat. that'd be great.
Canonically, I think this is the wombat that Doug is. Oh
Okay.
my god, wait, never mind. This one. Damn, wombats
So-
are fucking cute.
They are very cute. The room that you see down,
Ah.
you actually look down and you can see there's a stone floor. The floor itself is fairly charred. The area that you're looking down is the top left little nook of that map. You can see even from this drop down, there is what looks like some kind of a weapon protruding from the wall. There are these sort of filaments that seem to come out to a point, two of them that emerge from a metal tube that seems to have copper wire that goes around in a tight coil. There are these kind of silvery canisters on either side. Beyond that, you can see elements of broken stone on the ground. You hear the kobolds even stronger, but you can't see any. You kind of have to maneuver around and look. You can see there's a huge broken chain on the ground, absolutely massive links with an unlocked padlock. You can see there are offset alcoves in either corner.
Okay.
Opposite the one that you are looking down upon, there seems to be another one with a similar sort of item, a weapon maybe. It's hard to tell from this distance because it is about 30, 35 feet away from you. You can also see in the middle of this room and off to the left in the image that I sent you, there is a raised platform. This platform has a maybe like 2 feet high, very, very short half wall, like a wooden wall that wraps around either side. There are 2 staircases on either end that go up to it, and there is a table in the center. As you're like looking now, you can also see these little broken bits of stone all around the floor. And Gunter, your mind almost kind of goes into overdrive because each little crumble seems to be a different kind of stone.
Oh man, I'm cunning all of those at some point. But
Yeah, there are probably north of 100 different kinds of rock that you can see just from your vantage point alone. You see pinks, you see blues, you see elements of quartz that you've never seen before. There's a just dizzying array of stone within this room. You also see on this center table in the middle of the raised platform, there are these hunks of metal, clearly manufactured, clearly fairly ornate and maybe arcane in nature. They have that look to them, although they don't glow or give off any kind of active energy. But you see them kind of laid out onto this table, and that is where the kobolds are gathered around. You hear again the clang, clang as one of the kobolds with a little kind of dented smith's hammer is like banging on the metal itself. They seem to be trying to figure out how to make it work. You can see kind of leaning off the platform, his head caved in a little bit, this dwarf, probably Doug's owner. Doesn't seem to be especially alive. The kobolds, over the noise that they're making, do not seem to have heard you.
Okay. And how many kobolds do I see roughly?
Looking down at the count, you're looking at about 5 kobolds. Not a terrible amount.
Okay. Yeah, like what?
Actually, make a perception check. Maybe you get a better count.
Oh, I probably do because that's a 22.
You notice there is a 6th goblin, or not goblin. There's a 6th kobold. This kobold is sort of tucked off, whereas the rest of them are up on this table. You can see one of them kind of near what looks like at one point was a 10-foot wide stone door that was obliterated from the outside. Parts of it just kind of spread out in the ground in front of it. But he's kind of there looking through the stones there. You see him pick one up and throw it, clattering across the ground. Picks up another one.
All right. I'll turn to Moore and be like, how do we get rid of these 6 guys? We gotta get down there. I think that dead guy's Doug's owner. Don't tell him.
Well,
As he says that, Doug looks at you, Morwen, and you can see the head just kind of tilt to the side.
I'm just gonna be
It's not ready yet.
well, not to be cruel, but if the guy's already dead, it's not really like.
Yeah, but there's good stuff down there. There's like 1 billion different stones down there. Plus, they're definitely looking for something.
I mean, why do you need to go look at more rocks?
If you don't want, you can go have fun with Heinrich. I'm sure they're doing cool stuff back there, him and Shay.
I still have a fun side. Come on,
Yeah, okay.
don't be doing that now. But
I'm
just saying, now we have a
We
new life to take care of. We can't just jump down and kill 6 people or kobolds with a new member of the family.
Well, let's try to get him to leave.
You want Doug to leave?
No, not Doug. That
Oh, thank
The-
God.
You guys are
Those
watching
guys.
this little animal's head just track back and forth between you as you talk. It doesn't seem to understand anything that you're saying, but it's a fairly intelligent animal. Doesn't speak common, but
right? It's just six of them.
I'm gonna say hello to Doug in Elvish.
okay.
Hmm.
You say hello to Doug and Elvish. There's just kind of like a little back. That's pretty much all you get. Unclear if he understood you.
I'm gonna say Doug in Elvish.
Okay, Gunter, you hear Mormon say, "Doug," and just like a little bit of almost Germanic accent with it. But
Oh,
you,
right. Nice. Television's
I say
German.
Doug in Elvish.
yeah,
so
that's
there's
canon.
uh,
You so of note, Gunter, as you are like entertaining this idea, you look back down and you can see one of the kobolds comes very clearly into view, and he kind of goes through the stones again and pulls out what looks like it's like a perfect stone disc. Although you're noticing now, it's not necessarily the stone. In the middle of the disc, there's a small sample of ore. These are like samples of different kinds of stone. You can see like flashes of dwarf as it kind of manipulates it in its hand. There are letters and words on it, but it takes it and it turns and it screeches something back in Draconic and kind of disappears out of sight towards that table.
Oh wait, is it disappearing? Oh, towards the table?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, they found whatever they were looking for. Some sort of dwarven artifact. I think we gotta stop them.
does it look expensive?
It looks pretty expensive. But also, I feel like if we do this now, Heinrich and Shay will have to be happy with us if we stop them. Because it's probably bad for them.
But we don't know what we're stopping.
Yeah,
I
but
just
they don't care.
The clanking stop and like some chattering voices. They seem to be discussing something now.
Wait, so what's the situation where we're like looking down at a grate on them?
Yeah.
How high up are we?
From the ground, maybe like 45 feet.
Is that can we keep going through this? Can we like walk over it and keep going?
You can keep going about 10 feet and then it seems to dead end.
I think. All right, I have. This is what I'm gonna do. They're fighting, right? They're distracted.
They seem to be arguing. They're not, rolling
Right.
initiative on each other, but yeah, they're
Uh,
arguing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take out my high load fishing gear.
Okay.
I'm going to put the yellow berry on
You
the
got that
high load
chest.
fishing
Okay.
gear. And I'm going to slowly drop the berry on the hook down 40 feet to the ground.
It's
And
me
then-
good face, twisting
sleep.
in like concentration.
So,
and
40
eyes
feet.
wide and the tongue just like.
40
High
feet.
load fishing gear can probably lift up a kobold, right?
Oh, are we trying
I
to,
guess
We'll
maybe.
find
we're
out.
trying to lift one? I thought you were just trying to kill
So
something.
this little shriveled up yellow berry descends on a fish hook. The berry itself, it kind of like powder kind of comes off of it as you pierce it. It's completely hollow. This thing is dried out, but you lower it on the hook. It's just ludicrously small on the hook, but you lower it on the hook. Make a performance check for me.
Nice. That's 14.
14. Okay. So all of a sudden you hear the arguing stop. And you hear Makamawanti. And you just see all of a sudden one of the kobolds come into sight. And he just looks straight up and locks eyes with you past this berry. Because it's just like straight. And you just
I'm not like I thought I had just had like the fishing.
you want to like
reel
over. Okay. Still
Yeah,
sees
like
a
I'm
string
still
going
trying to
up.
be sneaky about it, you know.
Still sees like a string going up. in
So
front
you're,
of him.
so you're waiting to feel something catch, and then you're gonna,
Yeah,
and then just slam him against the grate.
yeah, and the berry is really only if like he falls off. It's insurance. Also, I'm trying to get rid of the
I know
berry.
that's gonna be happening based on
All
what
of a
Joe-
sudden, like a second kobold appears and a third kobold appears, and they all begin to sort of examine this thing. You
Are
feel The line tug a little bit as one of them kind of pokes it and it swings. You see the berry itself just kind of like fall over and onto the ground.
Are
One of them
they
stomps on it.
uh,
The berry
uh,
is no more.
are they all standing underneath the grate now?
There's
how many
three
of-
of them standing underneath the grate.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna, while they're under there, I think I'm gonna drop all of the daggers that I have on top.
Ah, okay. How many daggers is that?
Um,
That's so funny to me. Sorry. Oh no, he froze.
Oh
Man,
no.
but I want to know how many daggers that is. It's a lot.
it's six daggers and a short sword.
You're dropping a short sword too?
Yeah.
Just
All right.
you're
Um,
harming.
So go
It's
ahead.
good.
Go ahead and make make an attack roll, a ranged attack roll, using Dex as your modifier.
So
Using
0.
gravity
Wait,
as your
Am
arm.
I? So you're like bringing them out in front of me, right?
Yep.
So I see that he's about to do something like
Yeah,
this.
I'm like,
Yes,
watch
for
this. I'm
Yeah,
making sure. I'm like,
Wait, can
Just grab
can
him.
I handle this? And I take them.
Okay. You take all of these knives and a short sword.
okay.
I see what you're trying to do, but what if we just
All
pick them
right.
off?
I mean,
That's
if you
it.
want to, I guess so. They're not all underneath, so I guess if you want to pick off the ones that are going to try to go, I'll get the 3 here, though. I'm like getting ready.
Okay, and I'm
And you
gonna.
hear from off near that table this kind of, wait, and then you hear this.
Oh, they opened it. I'm dropping them.
What?
We're doing this.
All right,
Make your ranged
I
attack
take
roll.
like 3.
Oh, natural 20.
Nope. So Gunter, you take this, you grab from Morwen this big cluster of daggers and a short sword. They're kind of like wrapped around, almost like a chef's knife wrap is what I'm imagining.
Yeah, like a bundle.
And you, in one motion, kick the grate, which comes down, and you just throw a bundle of daggers and short swords. Roll a d10 for me.
All right. That's a 4.
4. So they take 5. One of them takes, I'll say, between the 3 of them, they spread 5 points of damage out amongst them. They each take 2 points of damage, we'll say.
Dang.
I mean, you're not getting a full attack off of dropping daggers
Yeah.
into a kobold. But each of them does take 2 points of damage. You can see one of them gets hit with the hilt, kind of like conks him on the side of the cheek, and you can immediately see scales kind of displaced from it. You can see one of them reaches up, and the dagger actually through the hand. And there's like a screech as it flings it away, and a clatter as the dagger goes off on the floor. The rest of them kind of clatter onto the ground noisily, and that's when you begin to hear. It's a different sound now, almost a vibration that you could feel. It is this building.
Uh-oh.
It's coming from
Uh-oh.
the direction of that table.
Yeah.
You can see,
Does that?
even as they do that and they begin to shriek out and look up at you, all of a sudden their attention turns, and you can see one of them get really excited.
Uh-oh.
What are you guys doing?
Is that sound reminiscent of a sound that we heard before a dear friend of ours got zapped into non-existence?
In a certain way. But as this kind of goes up, you can hear now metal. And it sounds as if something's being assembled almost rapidly. And you hear like cheers go up from the kobolds beyond. The 3 that are up, one of them looks up as the other 2 runs away, then it joins them excitedly. I would say at this point, everybody roll initiative except for Heinrich and Shay and Ilya. We do not hear any of this yet.
Well, at least they have 2 damage dealt already.
That's true. Yeah, they're
Alright.
basically crippled.
If they have a bag full of knives and
You
a
did,
short
yeah, you did basically give them all. None of them had weapons.
I have plenty of other weapons. I thought they're more cool in Gunther's mind.
Gunter, I mean, yeah. Gunter, what was your initiative?
13.
Okay, Morwen.
15.
Okay, they're going first.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I need to pull something out here.
I can't read your lips.
So they've disappeared now out of sight, and you can hear this kind of like screaming and clambering. And you can see two of them run back and grab daggers, and they look up at you. Gunter, one throws a dagger up this like kind of shaft leading up to where you guys are. You see it disappear out of sight as it into the ceiling and falls back down. Far beyond, you can now hear that kind of stop, and then all of a sudden, and now the floor of the tunnel that you're in above shakes a little bit, and then another one, and all of a sudden, lumbering into sight, you can see fairly close to you because it extends almost the height of the room.
Oh, geez.
This massive iron creature. Its face almost a ring of metal, purple stone set into it, and arcane scrawled around the ring. This blue flame seems to almost ripple out of it towards you. It seems to be the eye gazing at you. There's like this blue energy that extends down from the neck and into this massive metal chest piece. You see there is this stone circle placed directly in the middle with this little bit of metal in the center of it. And you can see it is going to reach up and attempt to attack you.
Oh, geez.
That is going to be a 28 to hit.
Yeah, that's a hit there, boss.
Okay. D8s. Never use D8s. That is going to be... So as it reaches up, it grabs onto you and yanks you down the shaft. As you slam into the ground, you take 23 points of bludgeoning damage.
Oh.
Into this, you look out, you can see one of the kobolds like grinning at you from far away up on that thing. There's two more behind it. You can see there's three relatively close to you. One of them still little bits of blood coming down its hand from where your dagger pierced it. This creature towers over you, and its arm comes up and slams down again. That is going to be
Did Doug fall with me?
I was about to ask if
I assume that
let
you
go of
were
him.
dug down to lift up all the daggers and short swords. You would have had to. So.
Presumably, yeah, he was
Doug is
next to
still
me.
up there.
Yeah. Okay, good.
With the second one, that is going to be a natural 20 to hit.
Oh, Jesus.
So that is going to be a lot of damage. A
Oh,
real
boy.
lot of damage.
This is things are looking good for old
No.
Quinty.
His
You got kind of
curiosity
lucky on
is
that.
finally going to kill him.
You take 31 points of bludgeoning damage as
Oh,
it
boy.
slams into you again. You feel the bricks underneath you crunch as you are depressed down into the ground. You feel something on the inside of you break or pop. It's hard to tell which. But this thing is slamming into you. And you can see this single blue flame burning as it looks down at you. That is their turn. That is Morwen.
Ow.
Well, first, as just a free action, I'm gonna be like to Doug, like,
Okay, you hear this kind of as you kind of nudge him and he kind of squeaks twice, but he kind of takes like 5 feet of movement backwards a little bit.
damn, Doug. All right.
I mean, he's in a tunnel, that's 45 feet above the drop down. Oh, Gunter, you also would have taken damage from that fall,
I'm
actually.
trying to shoo him to go back, like to where he came from.
You got a double one, so you can take 2 more points of bludgeoning damage, Gunter.
That's not bad.
So this
Alright.
little creature takes a couple more steps back.
Shit.
What are you doing, Morwen?
I'm gonna use my rope to staying up and
Okay.
dropping rope for Gunter, being like, let's get the fuck out of here.
So Gunter, as this massive metal iron
It's like,
arm lifts away from you, bits of stone raining down from where they cased onto the metal, you see this rope just being lowered down and Morwen's face up above. You see Doug's face pop over for a second and then disappear. But okay, so you lower the rope down. That is your turn?
I mean, yeah. Well, aside from like, of course, just like bracing myself to either, well, whatever, yank him up or hold it if he's climbing.
Okay, in this very narrow space, you can just kind of like push your legs out a little bit and you brace yourself into the wall very easily. You feel pretty sturdy. Gunter, what do you want to do? You're now like lying on the ground. There are 3 kobolds within 10 feet of you. There is this massive iron creature in front of you. Iron, and it's not really iron, is not fair. It is mostly metal, although there are elements of blue energy that swirl around, connecting each individual piece.
I'm gonna. Am I like? Is the rope like coming down as I'm like laying?
Yeah, it's within your grasp where you just stand up. You are like on your back.
All right, I'm standing up and I'm like, I'm trying to book
I
it.
have 90 feet of rope, so I'm gonna drop a little bit on his face.
Okay, it kind of onto your head. You
Grabbing it, I'm like, oh jeez.
you may get 15 feet up if you want to use
I'd
your.
like to pull at the same time if you can.
Okay, on your turn, you can certainly pull. That's something that I would say, you know what, you could have readied that as an action. So go ahead and make an athletics
no,
check.
I was saying I'd either brace myself to hold him if he's climbing, or
I see, yeah.
yeah.
Good enough. Make an athletics check.
7.
Seven,
wait.
Okay.
Wait. 7.
Oh, okay. Good. Gunter, as you make it about 15 feet up the rope, you can see the kobolds kind of getting ready to swing with their hands because they don't have any weapons except for the ones that you've armed them with. You are like pulled up an additional 5 feet. You are now like hanging midway in this room. 20 feet up above you is that vent.
Can I use my dash action to continue climbing?
So your action, yeah, I would say you could do that. So it's another 15 feet. You get up, and now, Gunter, your hands, where they're holding the rope, are just within the shaft. The rest of your body, like a little dwarven dangleberry, just kind of dangling below in the actual room itself.
Free action, just get the fuck out of here!
Free action, I'm trying.
Okay. Those are your free actions. So that is your turn. Go ahead and Heinrich and Shay roll initiative.
8.
I hope I don't get
That's
pulled
more
back
normal.
down.
8?
Me too.
Just an 8.
Wow.
Probably
That's my
kill
normal kind of initiative shit.
All right. So Shay, you hear this like, and then an additional, much louder, as that thing crunches Gunter into the ground. What are you doing?
Seems they've encountered a bit of trouble. And I'm waiting.
me.
You wait. So that is your turn, Heinrich. What do you want to do?
I mean, it's a tiny shaft. I can't go too far in. I'll like start going down and calling out to Morwen.
Okay. So you
like,
begin to
kinda
go down.
quietly, like, Morwen, is there, like, what's going on?
You move your
I need to be able to see you and know where you are at least.
your full movement about 30 feet down the shaft, crawling through, and you can see only about 10 feet, only about 20 feet ahead of you, there is the actual shaft itself. So you could use your action to get to the actual grate.
Okay, if she's right there, I guess I'll just use message and be like, Morwen, what the fuck is happening?
All of a sudden, Morwen, from behind you, you hear that as you're like trying to hold. You see Gunter right about to get in. You hear Heinrich's voice enter your head from behind.
Can I respond right now?
Yeah.
Pull the fucking rope.
Pull the fucking rope.
I'm trying!
No, not you.
Heinrich, is that your
I
turn?
mean, I can't make it there this turn and pull the rope, so I'll just use that on next turn.
Okay,
I can't.
no problem.
Like it's either I dash there and like I'm in Morwen's way. Should you pull up all the way, or like I make it there and assist once? Like, you know what I mean?
Sure. That is your
Does
turn.
Doug get a turn?
Doug does not get a turn unless you're trying to use him in combat. He's also
Not
technically not like your
Combat, not
companion. yet.
combat.
No, I'm just wondering, like, is he gonna run away or something? I hope
You don't
not.
know.
Well, I'm
That brings
kinda
us to the top of the order. So these kobolds
behind me. Sorry, go ahead.
These kobolds now begin picking up bits of rock and these daggers that are now littering the floor and begin just hucking them at you, Gunter, because they don't really have weapons. They are going to
I hope
throw 3 of them at you. It's going to be an 11 to hit.
that just misses.
Oh shit!
15 to hit.
What was it?
15
That hits.
and an 18.
That also hits.
You take 2 points of bludgeoning damage. I mean, they're throwing
Ouch.
rocks at you. I mean, they really don't have things here. However, that creature watches you go up, the single baleful blue flame tracking your movement. And it is going to go ahead and, looking straight up, you watch as there is, again, that sort of, and you can see now along the actual bits of metal, those purple stones begin to shine with light, and there is this kind of like crackles of electricity that begin to emit. Go ahead and make a dexterity saving throw for me.
Oh, jeez. That's a tough one. Oh, thank you. That's a 17.
Okay, so you take 13 points of lightning damage. How?
Ah,
To 6.
okay.
As it, from the blue eye, all of a sudden, each of these purple stones on its body seem to shine brightly at once, and the energy ripples up into the face and blasts a lightning bolt directly at you. Gunter, in this brief moment of this happening, you look down and you can see at the moment that the lightning releases, that little bit of metal in its chest glow extra bright. That is their turn. Morwen, what do you want to do? Gunter, you are on deck. You make it, you know what? It's 5 feet. No problem. You haul Gunter over the top. And like steam rising up from the electricity, little from the single hair on Gunter's eyebrow, little spark emits from it. But you are now up in this space.
All right, I'm gonna football Doug, and I'm gonna start like hustling out of this fucking thing.
Okay, you
And
pick
I'm
up
gonna be
Doug.
like, Heiner, get the fuck out of the way.
Oh, aren't you glad I didn't dash to get in the way?
There's this kind of, as you pick up Doug, and then you begin crawling forwards. All of a sudden, Morin's right in your face, Heinrich. Morin, that is your turn. Gunter, what are you doing? You're kind of laying down now in the shaft. You sit up and you look over, and you can see just that blue flame looking at you. There's another kind of flicker of lightning as it is doing so.
So I noticed that there was like a point that lit up.
Yep, on the chest where that stone circle is now residing.
Okay, I'm gonna try to, because the crossbow certainly hasn't failed me yet.
Sure.
You're
Oh my god, you're killing
I'm gonna
me.
try
You're
to-
killing yourself.
I'm trying to
trying to.
shoot it at the circle crest thing.
Okay.
And then
sure.
I'm gonna try to dip if it fails.
Go ahead and roll your attack.
That's 15.
Okay. You watch as you have to wind this thing back, the bolt going back and back and back, and then you depress the trigger, boom, and you hear it scatter across the stone beyond. You don't even see it miss because it moves so fast. but
I'm dipping.
it certainly does. You turn and you begin to dip. Right as you turn, there's like another rock that comes through the opening and kind of clatter onto the ground, but you begin to crawl through. You can see in front of you, there is Morwen. You see Doug's butt kind of like tucked under Morwen's arm.
Thank
You
God.
could see just past Morwen, Heinrich's face kind of peering around the corner, and just past Heinrich, you could see Helia now beginning to back out of the tunnel as well. But are you guys like the full-fledged retreat?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay. Without too much trouble. There's still a couple stones every now and then like clattering into the chamber, but they can't actually physically reach you at the moment, so you are now out of initiative. You can still hear like shouting kobolds and this kind of as this creature moves.
Let's get out of here, and I'm shutting that door. I'm just
the
gonna be like,
What the fuck happened?
so
What was that?
let's just go
So-
meet on.
Well, I feel like we've
mean,
got
I'm
a lot
not
to
gonna-
unpack here.
Cool. Let's do it on the
I
way.
gotta catch my
and then-
breath.
Let's do it on the way and get out of here. I don't want it. That's
Hunter's like sizzling a little bit. You can smell ozone emanating off of him from the lightning strike.
Yeah, up and away from this awful place, please.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not gonna go away. Let's get.
But we can.
Yeah, exactly. From whatever
we're
it
getting
is
outta
that
here.
seems to do you so much harm.
Okay, so you guys
As far as I
going?
can tell is, yeah, you went there. Something happened to you. You came back. Let's leave.
Not my fault. Not my fault. God, mostly my fault.
By all accounts, let's just leave.
It was really the
Let's just leave, Gunter.
golems. It felt like some sort of mech.
I'm leaving. I'm not even listening.
Here, look.
I'm
I'm up.
following.
After
Yeah.
you follow as well. Morwen, you follow, still holding Doug. Shay, you going as well?
I think I would take the rear, but yes.
Leading up the rear. You guys
That-
all follow Heinrich's lead up the ladder.
I'm
And on-
going.
No, the ladder, the
Sorry.
stairs.
I'm
Oh,
going
check out
to
the stairs.
recount what I saw regarding the kobolds. I'm gonna hype it up a bit, like they were doing some shady stuff. I'm assuming that they found this thing and activated this mechanized creature, and it's probably bad news. And I'm relaying that information.
I was like,
in a-
noted. So the next
a
time
Gunter
we
manner.
find another grate to jump down, it's I'll leave it to you. It sounds.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the stuff we're supposed to be stopping.
I mean, as far as I know, Helia didn't mention anything about golems to you and your plan. Is that right, Helia?
I'm talking about.
Oh, he froze.
Well,
Elia turns to you and says, I don't even know what a golem is.
Wait, Matt. Matt froze everything.
I know, I see. It's every time Matt freezes, it's almost a perfect face. As far as I know, the golems are part of my plan.
right. So.
But then
Wait
again,
for
neither
it.
were the kobolds, neither was the Dawnfather Ziggurat. All of
Sure.
this sort of just
Up-
falling into place as we go.
Up is the plan, and the golem is down, and that's even more reason to not go that direction, right? So
It sounds like logic to
on we
me.
go. I'm like,
So you guys-
these are all rhetorical questions. I am fully aware that
Okay.
there's nothing of value, or at least I believe there's absolutely nothing of value to us if we're trying to get in and out quickly to linger and check out grates and rooms and shit like that.
Sure. So you go up and through the only door that was formally marked as the blessing. You guys make your way up, and you go up the stairs. They switch back once, like I said, and you make them up. And there is a very, very small room at the top, not terribly high. And Heinrich, you thinking about it, this would bring you up to maybe like the midway point to where that other staircase is, not quite the top yet.
Uh-huh.
This doorway is fairly dusty. You can see here, nobody's traveled to this particular door in some time.
Mhm.
There is still dust, kind of like the soot almost coating the walls here, and so it's hard to make out details, but it seems to be almost, aside from this door, just like a very, very simple 10 by 10 room.
Okay. Gonna look for anything out of place, anything potentially like switching triggers,
Yeah.
that
Make an
kind of-
investigation check.
Still periodically marking Joe as we go so that Crowder can follow.
Haven't forgotten.
19.
19.
Not 20 something. It's only +5.
You begin to think about the way that things here have been laid out. There's almost always buttons or switches that seem to be on the walls. And so you start there first. You kind of go up and you brush some of the soot aside. And as it gets up and a little bit in your face, you cough a couple times and you realize, even as your hand brushes across, there's something underneath. And moving more of the soot aside, there's a complicated print across this whole door. Tiny little weapons. Hundreds of them. Almost like a wrapping paper style, like,
Sure.
Bands of weapons going across. You see war hammers, you see daggers, you see swords, you see a staggering variety of weapons, many of dwarvish design.
Mhm.
You don't see
Okay.
any knob, you don't see any lever, you don't see any switch.
Okay.
I would say you said 19.
Yeah.
These symbols, although relatively shallow, something about them you can kind of tell has an effect. They seem shallow, but getting really close, you can see there is almost a crevice in each one, and you would imagine touching the correct ones will yield results that are favorable to you.
Okay. What are the symbols and how do they repeat? Is it just warhammer, dagger, sword, and
I would say with the 19, you recognize that they do not repeat.
okay.
These are each individual icons of weapons.
and every single one
I would
is unique?
say yes. I would say
Hell
in counting real quick, you see there's 64 of them.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Any stories you've heard about places like this, like the Dawnfather? Obviously, the Dawnfather because of dwarven heritage, right?
I'm gonna.
Is that
I mean,
fair
it
to
is
assume?
important figures in our culture. So of course, I know.
Is there anything related to fables, stories, or anything where he forged, like, the first Warhammer and the second something? Is there like an order to weapons when it comes to mind when you think of him, or anything like that?
I mean, he is often depicted holding in one hand a smith's hammer and in another a war hammer.
Okay, good. Moving forward.
And now, with that, you actually think back to the very entrance of this place. There was this huge stone, looks like an archway with Morden depicted there holding in one hand a smith's hammer and another a war hammer.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Oh,
think back.
jeez.
Does this stuff like ring any bells to me from the past?
Make a history or religion check, your choice.
I will do history. That is 17.
So nothing about this in particular brings anything back. I mean, you're not a follower of Morden. You know who he is. You're a dwarf. Even the hill dwarves worship Morden. He is known as the Forger of Days. He created the first dwarf out of stone.
Yeah, he's like the Zeus of.
Yeah, no, exactly. He is the Zeus of the dwarves. That being
they're probably more like Odin, but
I mean, there's a dwarven pantheon, but you don't really know a whole lot about him. But now you're beginning to think back on some of your previous days and maybe other organizations that you've been part of. You think back to, and your mind kind of wanders to that mark that you know is on your back, and you do know that there are religious orders that they have these rooms, and usually they're called something like the Blessing of. There is the Blessing of the Storm. It's actually it's from the place. I'm trying to keep this as vague as I can. From the place that you were, there was a chamber that was called the Blessing of Storms, and you remembered that there was a figure who had to go there. I believe it was once a week to repeat these rites in order to keep this effect going. And so you would imagine as you're progressing, you're going towards either a ceremony room or something that something that's important and needs to be redone. So probably a magical effect of some kind.
Okay. Some sort of ritual or something, I think. Yeah.
So Forge Hammer and what was the other one again?
A Forge Hammer and a War Hammer.
It's typically what he's seen holding, yeah.
Is he always oriented in a certain way? So like, I mean, Dawn and Orb Ascension before Orb Recession. Orb Ascension always happens in the east, and the Recession always happens in the west. Is there a heading that usually like the? Can I try to pick together, or at least give this description better, in a way where it's like
make an intelligence.
Like, is one of them like always facing east and one of them facing west, and we could try to be like the whole sun? So like,
I see what you're saying. So you're saying, do they typically have a place to be? Like, does it matter which place?
Is it like the hammer to create the sun and let it go all the way over, and the warhammer to like vanquish the night or whatever the hell?
The Helia responds to you. The hammer, the smith's hammer, is supposed to indicate that Morden is the creator of all of us and everything that is around us. He is a patron of the crafts, of the arts, of anything that has to do with building. The warhammer represents that he is also a lover of battle, if it is righteous, and serves the purpose of the dwarves.
Okay.
But if you're asking, is there an order that they typically go in, you will normally see, because he is a right-handed deity, the smith's hammer, the skillful hammer, in the right hand.
Okay, I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna find the smith's hammer and like push it.
Okay. You go through, and eventually you come across this tiny little hammer, almost kind of hard to see next to the other ones. But as you go, you press it, and all of a sudden, faintly from that crack, that seam in the back, there is a slight glow.
Okay. Warhammer.
That one.
And all of a sudden, Gunter points. And as Gunter points, you kind of look away from where Gunter points, and you see in the top left, there's a warhammer.
Oh.
And you go and you press it, and all of a sudden there is this kind of faint glow again, and the door silently disappears. And in front of you there is a staircase. Similar steps that lead up.
I make a tiny like mission accomplished banner for myself, like yes.
Flutters to the ground. So all of you now stand in front of these stairs. They rise up about 50 feet, and on the top there is a brilliant light. So much so that when this door disappears, it almost kind of enters the room, and it's difficult to stare at. And for those of you who saw actually for only you, Heinrich, because you're the one that saw it, this matches the light that you saw.
Cool. And it's like the same source, you mean?
It's a similar light. It's the same kind of light.
Gotcha.
Like the same intensity?
So stairs go
like
up.
It's a warm, high lumens light, yeah.
Yeah. So stairs go up, and we're in a stairway. It's not like a big open room. The stairway goes up, and then it's just too bright to see through the doorway.
Yes.
Okay. I'd kind of turn around and be like, all right, remember, everyone, and like lingering on Gunter.
And as you say that, you see Helia kind of leans over to Gunter and goes, she elbows you, Gunter, and says, I think he means you.
Let's take our own advice and move, let's be a little more cautious, right? That was the thing we were trying to do here. And I turn around and start walking up the stairs.
My own advice.
Cautiously.
So you begin to go up the stairs. Is everybody following?
Mm-hmm. Doug in tow.
Doug in tow. You're footballing Doug still?
No. Baby style.
Okay.
Oh,
Doug
yeah.
has settled down a little bit, and he feels a little bit more relaxed. You guys head up. And as you get up, the light grows more and more intense, and it seems to get almost unbearable. But when you get to the top, it seems to even out because it's being displaced across a wider area. Your eyes adjust, and you realize it's not so much that this is blindingly bright, although it is extremely radiant. It is that you haven't seen daylight in some time. But the source is not the sky. You emerge onto what is maybe a 15-foot long platform, and at the very end of it, there is a single gleaming orb of glass, and it seems as if it is emanating up this beam of what could only be described as concentrated sunlight. It goes up and hits what looks like a silvered ring, and the ring itself expands around the strangest part of Coltron that you guys have been through. In front of you, there is what looks like a park. There's actual green grass. There are what looks like ferns on either corner, and like a pond almost. The water gently rippling, small lily pads placed about. You see Coltron dwarves walking here and there, dressed in silk and beautiful fineries. You can see one, it's an older dwarven couple, not Gunter old, but still fairly old, walking by. One of them wearing like a crushed blue, like long-tailed, what looks like an evening suit almost. And you can see it's actually velvet with these gold buttons. And from this distance, hard to make out, but they seem like they're real gold. And as your eyes adjust, you can see there's dozens of these dwarves moving about. This is nowhere near as large as the Ring of Copper or the Ring of Silver. But as you look about, this is a beautifully ornate, tiered room, maybe only 500 feet across. It rises up with these beautiful estates, none gold, all of them made out of beautiful stones. You can see pink marble rising up, columns with intricately carved gargoyles on either side, and a house just across what is essentially a street, although you're noticing now these streets cobblestones. There are probably close to 50 buildings in total. Your eyes wander up to this staircase, which seems to be made out of pure gold. This is the first real gold that you're seeing. And as it winds up one side of the Ring of Gold, you can see it leads to what looks like a shelf kind of extending, similar to the one that the Market Aglo was situated on, a similar size. However, either plated or entirely, the thing supporting the shelf is entirely gold, just a upside down dome anchoring it into the side of the wall that is just either pure gold or plated in gold. You can see just sticking out over the tops elements of a tree. The leaves themselves seem gold as well, and from it you can see like a single apple, also, surprise surprise, seems to be metallic gold, and it sways slightly. You still smell smoke, but the smell here changes too. There is jasmine and I don't know how to say this flower, gardenia.
Yeah,
Gardenia.
Gardenia.
Yeah.
Gardenia, yeah. These beautiful little white flowers now you're seeing kind of decorate the various yards. But life here, for the most part, seems to be progressing as normal. You see dwarves walking to and from different places. There's a number of them actually leaving the structure that you are standing on top of. And as you look down, you can see there is this sort of beautiful metal forge and fire above it, placed set into the ground, this elaborate courtyard with a statue on either side. And as all of this happens, there is sort of a shadow that crosses. And looking up, Heinrich, you're in the front. You see these great, although not nearly as large as you imagined, purple wings stretched out, attached to a much smaller body than you had pictured. Elongated, almost feline in its movements, going side to side as it flies. But you see it just kind of the wings and the back of the tail, and all of a sudden with they disappear across that golden terrace. And because it is 10 o'clock, that is where we're going to take our break.
Shit.
So you guys made it to the Ring of Gold. Look at that. You're at the top of Coach
Oh,
Run.
shit.
It is
At the
10.
Ziggurat? Like, we're on top of the Ziggurat. We're not, like... This doesn't come up to, like, an isolated thing. It's like, we're looking across...
It feels like you're on top of the Ziggurat of the Dawnfather, yeah.
Okay, so there's, like, an expanse between us and it, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, this this creature that you saw, it disappeared maybe like 200 feet away.
Okay.
And then up another 150 feet or so.
Gotcha.
However, it is 10:10, and so we will be back at 10:20. We'll see you then.
Bye.
And howdy, folks. Welcome back to Adventures in Alberon, our 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons games where we see dragons sometimes. I'm Joe, your Dungeon Master. If you're just joining us, welcome. If you stuck with us through the break, thank you so much. Wanted to give a shout out to Doss and Talon Nail, who both gave us bits. Thank you so much. The bits are really helpful. And then also wanted to say hello to our first-time viewer, Nat Awesome. Welcome to the madness that is Adventures in Alberon, and his Pip as well. Hello. So, joining back in, you guys are now standing on top of the Dawnfather's Ziggurat on this platform with a glowing orb emitting a beam of sunlight. into a ring of metallic material that is reflecting it across the ring of gold, creating almost like a permanent daylight here. There are people still walking to and from as if life is normal. You guys saw this creature kind of disappearing up onto the golden terrace. Gunter, you in particular, as you saw these purple wings flap, there's a moment where your heart feels dread, that you can't quite place why. And then all of a sudden, as it disappears over the sort of golden outcropping, your eyes follow up, and you can see in the sort of ceiling space where the rock arches over, there is a large hole carved. And beyond that, these metal golden pillars, you can see a couple of them extending up into the sky. And you remember, as you guys plummeted towards the ground in the Iron Hawk, you had seen this golden dome glinting off in the distance. You would imagine that's what that is. And beyond it, you feel now another surge, not quite fear, but adrenaline. Because beyond it, you see clouds, storm clouds. And you can hear the sort of as thunder rolls across. There's ash falling down from this hole, settling, and you can see it falling into what is basically a pond. The water itself dark from the soot kind of constantly falling into it. But you feel these two things. The rest of you now kind of gathering up on top. You can see you're maybe 40 to 50 feet above the ground level. Nobody seemed to have seen you. There is like a little bit, not a wall, but like a 3-foot tall stone kind of partition that you guys can get up to and kind of peer over. But around you and across, there is the Ring of Gold, covered in beautiful greenery and flowers and trees. The first place within Kulturam that seems as if it's outside.
Gunter, do you still have your fancy clothes?
Yeah. Take them
You
out.
can see Helia turns and looks at you. You get fancy, Gunter.
I mean, you gotta play the part.
I mean, I'm looking Gunter up, like, up and down with, like, the thing that I gave him. And I'm kind of like, I think you might want to throw on the fancy clothes just in case.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone else around here looking fancy.
Okay.
Switch it up. Doesn't add any +2.
Take off this studded leather armor, the obsidian cased armor with the profile of a unicorn sewn in silver thread across the little hole. Now, we've talked about it. You pull it off, and you begin to apply the much finer clothes. Are you wearing like the kind of teal stuff that you bought with Thistle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Real ugly fancy clothes.
If I'm going out against a dragon, I'm gonna go out looking good.
Okay, so full swag, Gunter. You dress up.
I think I want my fancy clothes.
Okay.
Gunter, do you think I should dress up, or do you think it doesn't matter? I want an opinion.
Dress how you feel. That's all I can say to that.
Doesn't help. I stay.
Why don't you?
No, I say ta-da, and my armor now looks like gold.
Okay, so as you say ta-da, the little rivets on the armor kind of suddenly flatten, and the sheen goes from a flat, dull iron to this kind of lustrous, almost gold-looking material. And you're now wearing golden armor.
Gold needles. No, I'm just kidding.
Stay gold.
Stay gold.
So,
Kitty cat.
hell yeah. Now that we're up here, what's our heading?
She points up, and you follow her finger, and she says, well, it's called the Golden Terrace for a reason. And that's the only golden shelf that I see. They're a literal group of people out here. Not terribly smart, not terribly kind, not terribly fair, but also extraordinarily wealthy and able to hire people to fill all those gaps. So we need to be very careful. I like where Gunter and Morwen's head is at. I do not have any finery on me.
I'm gonna take out. Up. You can go.
Well, no, I'm gonna look her up. I'm gonna size her up and be like, could she fit in my fancy dress? Probably.
She's 5 inches shorter than you. So I mean, it would be more of a poofy evening gown on her.
Hey, I got
But-
my disguise kit, and I can pretty much. We've already seen me like put it to work on.
Yeah.
Oh, you know
Unfortunately,
what? I've got
Shay, sorry about that. Still.
You know what? I've got a bunch of jewelry. I'm going to start handing
She
out.
still has like a little bit of a black smudge on her cheek.
I'm gonna at least give Halia, and please, I'm only lending them to you. I would like these back. I found them fair and square. I'm gonna give her some gold rings. I'd say 3 gold rings.
Okay. She takes them very, very eagerly.
I also have, let's see. No, sea necklace ain't gonna do much for her. And 1 silver ring with a red stone on it. I must have
Okay.
more jewelry. What the hell's this?
You can see as she pulls that ring from you, she looks at it and says, "Ah, garnet," and puts it on. She's now wearing 5 rings across her 2 hands.
Ooh, I have a black leather button with gold. What is she wearing? Can we put the little button on her?
Well, weren't we going to disguise?
You have a black leather button with gold. I mean, you could put it on her if you want. It's a button.
No, you're right. I keep it.
So you take it out and you look at it and you're like, no, and you put it back.
No, that's
Helia
fine.
now is disguised insofar as she is wearing more rings than she was before. Still kind of like, the leather armor and
Absolutely not helpful.
looks mostly the same.
Yeah.
Well, fine. See what you can do.
You said the dress. And I'll make it fit a little better.
Could I suggest something to all of you?
Sure.
I'm much better at moving by myself, but I do require all of your help. Maybe I could just stay hidden.
And
Oh,
then
okay,
you
give
meet
me
us
the rings
up
back.
there.
So much of these. Okay. And she pulls off the ring. She hands you back 2 gold rings and a silver ring with garnet.
You just shadow us, and we'll make our way towards the terrace, where all of these things will conveniently be held in one location. And I squint at her. Look,
I don't know where they're held. All I know is they're in the estate.
and that's where the estate is, on the Golden Terrace.
The Golden Terrace is the name of the estate. It's a sprawling place.
Well, what the hell? Are we certain that's the place to go? Then I guess that's it. All right, screw it. Right? Let's just get in and get out as quickly as possible. And I think we should, if we're all going to be going into just everyone's plain view, we need to assign roles.
Well, I'll give you all a head start and I'll watch from the shadows.
So, roles. I know nothing of the culture here, the people here, anything like that. I actually don't think any of us do. But if we're going to walk right through, we need someone to pretend to be someone of importance or belonging, and then the rest of us can just kind of be guards or something like that. It seemed to work before.
Well, remember also, we're in the most elitist part of the most racist is a strong word, but we're very dwarf-centric in Culturon. You're all going to stand out, except for... And she looks at you, Gunter. You're all going to stand out.
I was gonna say, I feel like we all turn to Gunter and be like,
I'm gonna like.
Well, aside from that, are there any back passageways we could use to just skirt all of this and not even have to talk to a single person?
I mean, are you asking Helia, or
Actually,
you want to make a perception
Asking,
check?
asking her to
Okay.
help look as well as look.
Okay, make a perception check at advantage.
Okay.
So you and Helia kind of edge up to the wall, and you look over the stones.
Well, I got 2 12s. That makes 13.
As you look across, I mean, there's a couple of things that you do notice. You can see there's this. You look at the density of people. The roads themselves fairly crowded. There are people kind of going to and from, and I mean, it kind of disjoints you because it should be pretty late at night. You're getting to the point where you're starting to feel kind of tired. You kind of look out and you're looking for places that are relatively not empty, or relatively not full, rather. Places that may offer better places to hide or at least kind of blend in. You can see the emptiest place, maybe 100 feet away. Kind of, there's a road that leads up to it. There is a park. I described before with a pond, some ferns. Nobody's in it at the moment. You can see little bits of soot kind of falling down into the actual pond itself. You can see, looking around, off to the right, there is a larger structure that seems fairly popular. And given its location, almost maybe no more than 50 feet away from where you are, going to the right, you're going to cross a fairly wide stream of traffic. So the most that you can get either towards the park or off to the left somewhere. There, it is a little bit denser, harder to make out exactly through the large buildings because these are tall, although they're not terribly close together. This isn't like the Ring of Iron where the buildings are stacked up like the favelas of Brazil. This is like much wider. These are, 3-story houses built of beautiful stones. I mean, Gunter, again, you looking across, I mean, you can see, varieties of marble that have colors that you haven't seen before. You can see just these beautiful, luxurious things imported from far away. And even in the gardens of these places, you see plants and trees of staggering variety. But you don't really see any like special places that you might be able to sneak through.
Okay. I'm going to just kind of pensively go back down the stairs a bit and be like, all right, how are we all feeling anyway? Should we kind of rest up and come up with a plan first before we just keep moving?
I mean,
We're kind of out in the
Gunter-
open here too, so maybe just now that we've gotten a lay of the land, back down and think of something.
I mean, I'm down, and I think Gunter took a good whopping from that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if anyone had any bandages. I think my leg's broken.
Yeah, I definitely heard like a rib crack,
Oh, right.
despite his fancy clothes.
And looking at Gunter, I mean, he's like a little bit like charred. Even with the fancy clothes, his skin is looking rough. His one hair has some burning on it.
Yeah, let's go back down and
Oh no, his one eyebrow hair got singed.
Just a little. It's still there.
let's go back in and yeah, I'll get you patched up. But then, that'll be it for a while. I'll do what I can with what you give me.
So you guys turning around, going back down for now?
I would like to. I don't know what everyone else is thinking, but I don't want to just.
fine with
I don't
that.
want to just sneak right in. You also mentioned that we're getting kind of tired-ish. Like
Yeah. Probably looking at another 3 hours or so until you start thinking about exhaustion.
Let's go ahead and just get back in that secret door area and just take a rest, and I'll keep watch. And you know the drill.
In the trash room?
No, just at the bottom of these stairs, and we can close that secret door if it reappears.
Near the golem thing?
No, just at the bottom of these stairs that we are standing on top of. Before the other stairs that go down to that room, to that other place that you wanted to go into so badly.
So we're gonna sleep on the stairs?
Mhm.
Okay.
You can
Enough
go
luck,
ask
buddy.
for a room in the city if you feel like you
No.
got a shot.
No. I would.
But all right, well, let's go back down. We can all get a little.
What's going on?
Gunter pulls his clothes up over the missing beard. I mean, the deeply undwarven appearance that he's currently projecting.
Right. So back down, please. Anyone? Yes, let's go.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, of course. And you guys all begin to turn. And as you do, you can hear again the... And you see over the Golden Terrace now, this purple dragon appear. You can see the face long and feline. The teeth kind of over the lip itself. She's smaller than you would imagine a dragon would be. From the end of the head to the tip of the tail, no more than 35 feet. But she moves in this incredibly unnatural, almost feline kind of way, even in the sky. She takes a circle large around the Ring of Gold, and then you see her beginning to approach the structure that you're in. And she gets within 100 feet and then suddenly descends into the ground. You can see the dwarves are all, I mean, they see her and you expect panic. And there is kind of like, people kind of, you see the gentleman in that kind of blue, not suede, what is this stuff called? Velvet sort of tailed suit, take the woman that he's walking and kind of like guide her away. You could see people beginning to kind of move quickly, but not panic. And you hear her voice now. She's maybe 70 feet away from the structure, another 40 feet down. And you can hear like bits of stone still rumbling away from the impact. So who did you say you saw? And the neck kind of cranes down. You guys doing anything, or are you just heading down?
I'm
listening.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm listening in. I'm
Yeah.
like sneaky listening.
You hear a voice. Make a stealth check, everybody. Everybody who wishes to remain, make a stealth check.
I will not because I'm not stealthy. I'm like you
Okay.
report back. I'm gonna message Link mind with more and be like,
Okay.
tell me phrases. We'll recap after.
19.
19.
Okay. Okay.
12.
Okay.
But
Not bad across the board. You guys aren't like actively sneaking up on somebody or hiding and listening, so not terrible. You guys all kind of crowd up to the wall, and some of you, I would say Morwin and Shay, you guys can kind of peek over and see. Gunter, you can't quite get up. You have to kind of like sneak up and listen. You're afraid to make too much noise. But you can see Kindscale, this purple dragon, long. The scales themselves, not like a flat purple. As she shifts, you can see there's almost an oil quality to them, and they kind of refract light in a weird way. From her eyes, these long, narrow eyes, you can see there is almost like a plasma-like material that seems to kind of drift up and then evaporate into the air. The mouth doesn't move as she speaks. This seems to be almost emanating from her. And though you hear it as a voice, there's an element that you guys are recognizing, and Heinrich, you especially, you're hearing it just as loudly as everybody else.
she's broadcasting.
You hear from underneath, although you do not see. It was a tiefling, like a cat lady, and a couple others. Why, Miss Kindscale? What is? And you kind of just see the head look up and around, and she casts this gaze across the ring of gold. And suddenly, all of you hear, and Heinrich, you as well, hear. And you didn't think that perhaps it was a good idea to stop them? And you can kind of see now, like some of the dwarves begin to kind of like run off to the side. And I would say, Morwin and Shay, you guys like peeking a little bit over. You see at the bottom, none of his wolves around him. This dwarf, Smashjaw, that opened helm that he kind of had now clutched in his hands, kind of bashfully. He looks down. You can see bits of his jaw still kind of sticking out to the side. I thought they were working, and then all of a sudden, you watch as her mouth opens, and in an incredibly unnaturally quick motion for a creature this large, reaches down and bites him in half. As she draws back, you can see just legs still for a moment standing before they begin twitching and fall to the ground. Blood spurts across. Now there are screams. And you can see Kindscale like lets her mouth open, and the half of Smashjaw just onto the ground also begins to bleed. You can see the eyes open and wide. Smashjaw is dead. You can see Kindscale now again cast a look around ground level at all the dwarves. If you see anyone who doesn't belong, take this as a lesson. They're not to reach the terrace. And all of a sudden dust is displaced as the wings power this creature up and off the ground. And she disappears up and over again. For what it's worth, there is a moment where this space in front of the Dawnfather Ziggurat very clear.
Free action pee my pants.
The fancy pants. Oh, you just put those on.
I always have the sarong underneath.
I don't think that catches the full moisture of like a fear
Dry and
key.
crusty.
It's pretty absorbent.
We've already canonized it being like dry and crusty.
That's right. It's just kind of
No,
pooling in there.
that's the wraps. The sarong itself is like a chamois.
Anyways,
now is
now
your
that we have that canonical piece of Gunter information, you guys are left kind of in the stairs. Heinrich, you down a couple of steps. Everybody else at the top. What do you want to do?
I'm gonna like message more and back down now.
I just start walking towards Heinrich.
Okay. Two of you go downstairs. Shay, you're now alone up at the top.
I think I want to stay and watch for a few minutes just to see what.
I'm just like up against the wall. Jeez.
Desperately trying to ignore the smells of
Gunter?
Gunter pee.
Sure. Over the Jordanias and the jasmine, you actually get this weird kind of, very, very pungent scent of Gunter.
It's like garlic. Burnt
Garlic
garlic.
ammonia.
Make a perception check, Shay. As you wait up for a couple of minutes, you just kind of watch and observe and see what happens.
I'm still
25.
there, just sitting right next to
25?
Shay.
Okay. Gunter, make a perception check.
I'm not looking.
Okay.
He's
I'm
just
like sitting there. I'm sitting there listening, but like
Okay.
just kind of like, oh geez, my legs hurt. I'm broken.
After a minute or two, people begin to kind of reemerge. Doors open. People come out of houses. You can see there are a few people who like actually poke out of bushes and other elements of vegetation. There is, I would say, Shay, you also notice in that pond, although there is no especially large piece of ash that falls or no wind that you can feel,
Mhm.
as the creature speaks, as Kindscale speaks and then takes off, you did notice that there were faint ripples in that pond as if something beneath stirred. You watch as people begin to kind of go back to what they were doing, although there is this sense, you see people looking behind them, you see people casting their glances up. There is now a little bit more of an edge in the air. And then maybe like 3 minutes after that, you can see somebody comes out dressed in not full plate mail, but it's fairly heavy metal armor. They come out and kind of look down. You don't really see them. You watch as they kind of like kick the leg of Smash Jaw. Both halves of the torso kind of separated by about 15 feet. And then that figure turns around inside. Another 2 or 3 minutes come by, and you see 2 or 3 dwarves, much poorer set of dress, although you do see over what is essentially like potato sacks, the sort of symbol of Kindscale has been painted on very sloppily. They go up and you can see they begin to drag the elements of this body back inside. But aside from that, nothing.
Other than people just looking generally more scared, do they seem to be moving in ways that are comfortable to them or normal to them?
Yeah, and that's weird in and of itself, because Colteron is a war zone.
Right.
The Ring of Silver burns, the Ring of Copper is occupied. Even the Ring of Iron, most of it completely subjugated. You guys up here, life is going about as normal.
creepy.
I think
And you begin to think about that a little bit because you remember now, and part of your memory is maybe make an intelligence check.
14.
You can't remember who it was, but you remember somebody saying, I don't know how, but it's almost as if they'd been attacking from within. Something about that bothers you just a little bit. But a couple minutes go by and it seems to be business as normal.
I think at that point I will turn and deal with Gunter.
Okay, you turn, you see Gunter still plastered the entire time against a little short wall. He's like in a seated position. You can see the brick at his base a little bit darker than the rest of it.
Can you move?
Ah! Yeah, what?
Quiet.
What? Yeah.
Quiet.
Yeah, I'm good to go. What are you talking about?
Let's go.
I just need some of the Heinrich's band-aids.
He's already downstairs, so if you want them,
Yeah. Don't need to just... I'm gonna get on my way.
Okay. Gunter gets up with a kind of wet sound and makes his way down the stairs.
I'm gonna give him a solid head start,
Yeah.
and then I'll follow.
Okay. You follow. And now it is Heinrich, Morwin, Gunter, and Shay
And
and Doug, sorry, within the stairway.
And Helia. Or did
No,
Helia leave? She left already.
unclear. But as far as you guys can tell, even with the passive of, I believe, 19, you do not see what Helia did, but she is not here.
Alright, cool. We brought her here.
Morwen,
for
it's at
your
this
mission.
point also, Morwen, that you realize she only gave you 2 of those gold rings back.
bitch.
Surprised?
Uh,
Like she took the garnet and 1 gold ring.
No, she gave you the garnet one back. I did say
Okay.
directly to you that she gave you 2 of the gold rings back and the ring with silver and garnet back,
No.
but I did it in a way where it wasn't terribly obvious.
I
but
mean,
yeah.
I have 7 gold rings. Now I'm down to 6. That's fine.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah.
So it is at this point probably getting close to like 11:30, maybe midnight, depending on. I mean, you guys don't have a clock, obviously, but you're starting to get pretty tired.
Yeah. Well, shack up here, guys. I'll patrol the stairs.
Will you keep watch of Doug?
Yeah, sure. You don't have to. I'll just leave him with you and make sure he doesn't
Where's
stray too far.
Make sure
Hey!
he doesn't scamper off.
where's Helena?
I don't know. She probably left to go complete the mission on her own and leave us here stranded.
I mean, she says she works better on her own. I'm not surprised she scooted.
Yeah, she's probably trying to go to the terrace. That's probably what I would have done if I were her when that opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
good luck
go-
to her, I guess.
Yeah, maybe we'll meet her again. Maybe she'll find us
So-
or we'll find her.
What do we
Don't
do
like
now?
camping her with her not here.
You what?
Don't like us camping here. She knows we're here.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know any other path or way to go. Like, if we were to jump down and be immediately spotted, we've now been pointed out. And if we go backtracking, I mean, we know what's back there.
Well, we can always sleep in the garbage.
No. No.
I mean, I'm just saying it's an option.
Right. Means of quick
Okay,
egress.
diva.
Gunter, you think about it because you were the one that looked down the most. I mean, this drops down probably hundreds of feet. And now that you've really thought about it, Gunter, and you've kind of like seen some of the other spaces that lead off, you imagine that probably leads all the way down to like the ring of copper or the ring of iron. It's like a trash chute. It probably leads to wherever the dump is in Calderon.
Yeah. I don't want to sleep in the dump chute.
Which is like hundreds of feet long. So like,
Okay.
I mean,
I
You
don't
don't
wanna
sleep in the
fall.
chute, you sleep forever at the base after falling to your death.
well, if it curves along with kind of like the
Okay.
outside wall,
You
would
could slide
imagine
down.
if you were very careful about it and you could maybe slide down. I'm not
the
saying you
distance
wouldn't. You would
is
take damage. You would take
At the
damage,
bottom.
but you would survive probably. Yeah, it's
It would
probably
be like
Alright.
going down a dry water slide.
Right.
yes,
Shay-
yeah.
So
Ew.
back inside, Shay, I agree completely with you. I don't think since we've noticed there's just nothing straightforward about this city, and there's definitely nothing straightforward about a gang of thieves and all that kind of stuff. Like, we travel with some people who also may fit that category, no offense to you guys, and there's nothing straightforward about us. I can't say that I would put faith in just some random woman that much that we left. She felt so bold as to jump off and go there. Like, what if she reports to Kind Scale or something?
I mean, I wouldn't hold it above her, but
So
You
where do
know.
you suggest we retreat to, I
Well,
suppose?
where did you, where
I have
did
no
that
suggestions.
sleeping cold vault room?
It wasn't a room, it was the base of the steps up to the pillar of gold that led out from this ziggurat a little ways down. I mean, the alternative is I could just keep watch for a simulated nighttime or something where it seems like they can't be awake all the time, and all of them, it doesn't make sense that they would just be constantly awake up here. Right?
I don't know. You're the expert on that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think all of them are like me.
Or maybe they sleep in shifts, so there's always people awake.
Well, that's entirely possible. But you guys look like you're
Heinrich,
getting your
make a history check.
Okay. Nope. 3.
Nope. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Cool. Why don't you guys get rest? I'll do a bit of watching from inside to see if anything's following us from below, and also kind of keep an eye on the city to see if there is any pattern to the busyness up here. If they're always awake for some reason, that's also useful information. If there's times where they go to sleep, that's also useful information. If we're trying to sneak through or just, anything like that, it would just, I feel like that would be wise to know. We've been up here for all of what? A minute? 2 minutes? No, wait, 5 minutes or 6 minutes based on your description of Shay watching.
Well, 7 minutes based on my description.
Okay,
but yeah.
7. I forgot the numbers you said. I mean, yeah. I don't mean to tell you all it is bedtime, but that is my suggestion.
I'm fine.
Man, Heinrich putting you guys to bed.
Fuck off. I'm trying not to, but no one else has any ideas, and that's the only thing I can do with my 8 hours.
Alternatives, so.
You guys all going to bed?
I'm sprawling out on a stair and just I'm piecing.
Yeah.
So
same.
before you can even finish that, Gunter's already asleep.
I would recommend you guys sleep a distance away and below so the smell doesn't waft up to you. Maybe on the first landing.
What smell?
Well, okay. If you don't smell it, that's fine.
Gunter? I poop my pants all the time. I don't care about pee.
I would like
Internet.
to, during my non-waking hours, try to use the tinkering and smith's tools to fix the broken deck sweeper that I have.
Okay, yeah, roll a wait, during your non-sleeping hours?
Non-sleeping hours of the presumed long rest that we're about to take.
Okay, so go ahead and make a it's a tinkerer's check. So add your dex modifier. Are you proficient in tinkerer's set? No.
I think I got proficiency from Gamble, or did I just receive?
No, you just
tools
received
as well?
tools. You got the
Okay.
tools. Oh, you know what though? No, he gave you his first tinkerer's set, didn't he?
Yeah.
You are considered proficient with tinkerer's tools as long as you have that set.
It's Tinker Toy Tinker Tools.
Yeah.
Babby's first set.
Okay, so it's plus dex, so that's 19.
19. Okay.
It was
So
all
before you go to
proficiency.
sleep, you kind of wait and you see everybody kind of getting settled in. You see Doug even kind of does like a little circle kind of at the side of Morwen and then settle down to sleep.
I was gonna-
he spends- Oh, sorry.
No, before bed, I just split one of my rations with Doug. That's all.
Okay. You split one of your
Put
rations.
him
with
on my
Doug.
belly.
Okay. Doug will sleep on your belly. He's dense. I mean, he's a heavy creature, but yeah, he sleeps on your belly. He's like, he steps on and you hear the kind of, it's almost, they make almost like these pig leg grunts, but he gets on there. Gunter, you take some time and you work on the deck sweeper. And maybe something about being here, either, spending time with Gamble in his workshop of beautiful and elaborate inventions using steam and metal and all kinds of different artistry forms, or maybe being in Kul Tiram, a real dwarven citadel. It has been a long time since you've stepped foot in one of these. If ever. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I don't think you've ever been in a citadel. So, I mean, maybe the inspiration comes from here. But you begin to notice elements of the deck sweeper that are maybe fixable, and you begin to take some time, and you get a little bit of work done. You can mark it as about half fixed.
All right. Half fixed.
By the time you're done, by the time you're getting real sleepy and you settle to bed, you have the actual barrel itself warped back around so that it's relatively straight. There's still some work to be done, but it's resembling a gun again.
All right.
And you're finding that the difficulty really comes from the fact that this is, definitely a pirate weapon with two barrels that were, again, welded onto the side. So it wasn't, you're not working on a factory standard weapon here.
Right.
And again, firearms incredibly uncommon, really rare outside of Stonefloat. But yeah, you do a little work on it. Morwen, you feed Doug, and you find a little bit of rest. Shay, you doing anything before you go to bed? Okay. Heinrich,
Mm.
you watch as your companions go about a couple little bits. You see Morwen feeding Doug, and you see Gunter kind of grumbling and working on the deck sweeper. But what are you doing after they go to sleep? One by one, they
So-
find sleep.
So, firstly, is that secret door thing back in place, or is it still open to the stairs in the air?
It's still open.
Okay. Shit. Well, I guess there's nothing I can do about that unless I could look for anything. You said it just dissolved, right?
It seemed to almost like disappear. There is, you didn't turn back and look, but now that you're kind of like going about and I'm imagining just walking around, not
Yeah.
like staying in any one place, but you're
No.
occupying 8 hours while staying close to your group.
Yeah. I mean, I have a few
Um,
things I wanted to do, but that was the first thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, just wandering back, you do see there's a similar silver button placed into the wall on the other side of where that door was.
Okay. All right. Maybe I shouldn't close it because then it would be hard to get back. All right. No, I'll leave it open for now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go downstairs
Okay.
and just see. I mean, I'm not gonna go look for anything, but if I can hear anything like that thumping again,
Okay. Is there any place in particular you're looking
just
or
the
you're trying to listen to?
just like the four-way entrance area that
Okay.
we're in that we found Doug.
Make first an investigation check, and then a perception check.
Okay, investigation's 24, and perception is a whopping 2
Okay. You said 24.
for investigation.
Okay. I mean, you find some things that Gunter didn't find. As you get, I mean, not terribly hard because Gunter
Right.
didn't do a great job. The first thing that you're noticing, you don't hear that thumping. First
Okay.
of all,
Okay.
whatever that large creature was that attacked Gunter has either returned to its inert state or has moved on.
Okay,
I would say,
good.
even kind of going there and looking down the pathway, you can see the shaft that you guys had peered down is wider than it was. It looks as if something was thrown up, something very large up, smashed at an element of the ceiling. So the hole itself, though jagged, is about 10 feet wide now. And there's like bits of debris on the other side, but you don't hear anything from beyond and you don't see the light anymore.
Good. Okay.
You look around on the ground within the actual room itself. You do find in the corner under some of the soot, Gunter had maybe just kind of brushed over them perhaps, but there are 2 gold pieces.
Nice.
These gold pieces, they're Colcherom gold pieces. So they're Doug's owner was from here.
Sure.
You also find, one sec, I gotta find this guy's backpack. I would say, Gunter, you left that bag there, right?
No, I took the bag with the
You took
Smith's
the bag?
tools and the gloves.
But you took the bag itself too.
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from that, you don't find a whole lot. You find like little bits of debris here and there in areas where soot has kind of congealed together when moisture has been present. You do find like a few very faded footprints. You would imagine now putting some things together. These etched in marks were probably made by that dwarf as he's looked in one after the other doors and kind of explored them. And that does bring to mind, you remember Gunter saying that there's probably some good stuff back there, and you look and you can see that the symbol carved from the door that you guys emerged from does have a set of plate mail kind of
Right.
etched into that door.
And I pieced it together that means something about that room that Gunter was going on about.
Well,
With
now
the
that you're
secret reliquary or
as
whatever.
you take like an hour or two and really start to put stuff together, you start to follow the tracks, and you can see a lot more of them head back in the direction of the room that you guys came from. And you're beginning to realize the reason that this dwarf was probably here. And you remember what Gunter found in the bag. Not a ton of possessions or anything. This is a dwarf that was probably fleeing and was probably trying to get what was ever in that room with the kobolds. The one where you guys had seen that kind of festering kobold with spores, kind of like itching with spores all over. The dwarf was probably trying to get something out of that room and had been going around trying to find some means of doing so before he met his untimely demise in the room below.
Sure.
And thinking about that, I mean, his body is still probably there.
Right. I mean, I'm not in any capacity trying to go back there right now. So I'm going to close all the doors, and I'm going to close the door to the room at the base of the stairs leading up to where my friends are as I'm exiting to like
Okay.
extra seal it,
Sure.
I suppose.
Yep. So you go touching buttons as you move, and you seal the way behind.
Yeah. And I guess now is as good a time as any to start a bit of watching. Do like a few hours of just watching the people
Okay.
go about and see if there's any pattern of like sleep, or do they sleep in shifts, or do they not sleep, like whatever.
Make a perception check. And I would say make it an advantage because you're taking some time, you're taking in the sights, you're trying to find patterns, you're trying to see what's happening up here.
All right, got a 15.
You notice a few things. The first is that they do seem to indeed sleep in shifts. And as you think about it, and you think back to things that you've read because you are a voracious reader, a lot of times in really mining-oriented towns, things were set up in such a way that the economies and therefore the local area sort of functioned on a 24-hour schedule so that the mines could always be staffed.
Mm-hmm.
And even going up into the more elite stratas of society, those are the people running those operations. There still needs to be people awake. There needs to be people awake to visit the stores at the hours right when ore comes in to get the best prices. So this is truly a 24-hour city. Kocharam is huge. And it is, one might call it a city that never sleeps if that were not already reserved. But you take that in. This is definitely a place that sleeps in shifts. There's not in a special time that seems quieter than the others. You notice that the park is completely devoid of visitors. Not a single person walks in, and you see people pointedly avoiding it and walking, the long way around and then kind of continuing on their way. But people are pointedly avoiding that place.
Yeah.
And I would say at least once you do see the water underneath kind of bubbles pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 2 hours in, you notice this very peculiar figure moving against the tide of the crowd, kind of different than everybody else. You can see, moving fairly quietly, this dwarf, and with a good amount of confidence. She's carrying these parcels in her hand. You could see this sort of almost, black hair, long and down and wavy, weirdly wavy, almost as if it's been in braids. And all of a sudden, as she looks up, kind of making eye contact with you, you see Helia Coldrot. You see this kind of small smile, and then she looks back down, and she's making her way, you're realizing, towards you, not directly. She's kind of, going to one place, and you see her go in a door.
Blending in
you see
circuitously.
some other people come out, and then you see her kind of following them. And she follows this group of 3 people until all of a sudden they pass by the Ziggurat, and you can see she stops for a second. You see she drops something and kind of picks it up. And as she does, she turns and kind of disappears underneath you.
Mm-hmm. Can I message her?
You can certainly try it. What do you want to say?
Yeah. I'm just going to be like, where are you going? What are you doing?
All that comes back is just a moment.
All right. Well, that's better than see you later.
Wait about 5-6 minutes, and all of a sudden you hear on the side these soft taps. You wouldn't have heard them had you not been listening for something and looking for something.
Right.
And then all of a sudden one hand comes up. You can see one of Morwen's gold rings on the ring finger. You now see there is actually a platinum band, a braided platinum band around her finger, one of the other fingers. The other hand comes over, and you can see
I'm going to message, congratulations.
In the grip itself, there's this big sack, almost like a Santa Claus-sized sack. And you hear her voice from over the top. Yeah, you don't need to keep doing that. It's a bit creepy. And she, like, the leg comes up. She's now wearing, it's worth noting, totally different clothes.
Yeah, I figured.
This beautiful crimson red dress. These gold sort of accents going around the bottom border. The sleeves puff out, and you can see they're cinched with what looks like almost like a matte silver ribbon that cinches it around the arms. You actually do notice there's makeup covering the top of her arm, but just peeking out, there seems to be elements of a tattoo. You can see she is now wearing makeup as well, which is very different for her, and it's not poorly done. And her hair is wavy from the braids being taken out recently, and she's now very much in disguise. She looks finely dressed.
Mhm.
She drops the sack down. Oh, sorry to leave you like that, but it got a little hectic for a moment.
Sure. I mean, we didn't even
She
notice,
sits
so
down.
good at best time as any. You can wait down with our friends if you'd like.
So legs kind of sprawl out, very unladylike angles, and she puts the sack down between her legs. I'll do it in just a moment. I do need a little bit of sleep, but I got us things that we might need.
Hmm.
And she fishes in. She
Go
pulls
on.
out these 2 wrapped parcels. One of them, very, very, very nice looking clothing, fit for a dwarf.
Sure.
And she sets it aside and she says, I noticed that our friend Gunter doesn't have much of a sense of fashion, so I got him something a little bit better to blend in around here.
Sure. Fair.
And then the other parcel she kind of opens up, and in it there is this, it's almost like a submarine sandwich. The bread itself, crusty on the outside, a faint bit of glaze. You can see bubbles where air is kind of blown out. This is almost like a baguette of sourdough. And within it you can see little bits of green and some kind of a whitish, like a sauce or a compote of some kind, and then what looks like a dried meat kind of within that. But it's this elaborate looking sandwich. And she looks at you and she kind of picks it up and she looks at you and kind of breaks it in half. You hungry?
Sure. Thank you. And I'll take it.
She passes it to you. She begins kind of eating that as she reaches still into the bag and begins to pull out more things. She produces a set of burglar's tools, a disguise kit. She produces 100 feet of rope. It's 2 kind of lengths of it tied together. She brings out what looks like maybe not a yeah, you would recognize it. It's basically like it's a crowbar essentially.
Mhm.
But as she's kind of laying all of this out, and there is more food, what you do notice is the rest of the food that she brought back is rations. These are,
Sure.
still kind of
Dried
like traveling
keeping
food. Much
goods.
nicer than things. This is like your trail mix, and there's like little bits of sweets in there, and
Mhm.
kind of much more complex than just dried meat. But
Mhm.
she got food for everybody. She got nice food for her, but she did split it with you.
Yeah.
And as she's kind of chewing away, she just says, "So anything interesting?"
Unfortunately, and I feel like an idiot not thinking about this before, but don't think that there's going to be a time where the crowds lull down and allow us to pass easily or freely. What did you find?
Well,
Aside from this wonderful sandwich.
and she nods and just says, "Well, it's a very strange thing, but there's not a bit of damage anywhere that I can see on the Ring of Gold."
Sure, she's keeping them as pets or something, I can tell.
I don't think it's pets.
Okay, as ways to keep subjugated peoples, she keeps the ruling class under her thumb or something like that. I'm trying to piece it together, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
And she's like munching on the sandwich still, but through the food, she says, I've been thinking about it a little bit, and nobody really understood how Kindscale got in with the first few groups that she brought. It seemed as if she was attacking from the inside, and I'm wondering maybe not everybody, but a large enough group from up here, they turned and they gave away Cultural in exchange for staying safe.
Seems just about as fair from the ruling class as I can assume.
See, this is what I was saying about the gold glows, and she's now polishing off the sandwich. They cast us out of Cultural because we wanted things better.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense. What about that park? What have you noticed about it? I know that everyone's keeping away from it, and that pond doesn't seem too friendly either. Something's in it, I can tell.
It's called the Lily Pad Green. There's Dwarvish, of course, but
Sure.
it seems innocuous enough. I mean, I'm not, and she kind of looks over at it. I don't really see anything.
People just
Seems
kind of don't
relatively
seem to
innocuous.
acknowledge it, basically. And I would assume also that you didn't overhear anything about it either.
I heard what it was
Ugh.
called. That was kind of it.
Yeah. And in terms of your little clandestine trip into town, was there any possible pathway or anything like that where it would be easy enough to have us get through. I can't think of any single way where this would make sense for us to just go in altogether.
My first inclination would be to hide you in a cart and maybe bring you guys under the guise of transporting goods. But I haven't seen a single one of those since I've entered, so that's right out. I think we would need to rely on either blending in or creating a distraction. But please don't tell Gunter that.
Yeah, that distraction thing seems pretty bad, especially when kind skills are right here.
To your point, she's up on the Golden Terrace, which is our destination. So at some point we'll need a distraction to get rid of her as well.
This
It might
is
be
true.
worth setting something up before we depart.
Right. Well, have you ever heard of dynamite?
I haven't. I've learned a great many things from you group. The Gibbons, the Orber session. What is this dynamite?
Right. Dynamite. It's well, we picked it up when we were down on one of our previous journeys. It's a really wondrous thing. It's a small, compact stick that releases quite a bit of energy quite rapidly. There's a fuse, and if you maybe
What's a
elongate
fuse?
it, you light it like a candle and it burns down. But it's slowly and it's attached to the explosive part. And when the fire burns down the fuse, it eventually reaches the
It's an
explosive part.
explosive. What did
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
say? It's an explosive.
Well, shit. I mean, dynamite, explosive. I figured it was synonymous, but maybe you've been here your whole life. Okay. Dynamite.
And you do,
is great.
yeah, she has been living with them.
If we can elongate the fuse, we could buy ourselves time to set it up, run somewhere else, blow it up, and then get up there and inside. If that would be something feasible to do.
This fuse, how long can we make it? Can we make it several hours?
I have no idea. We could try to figure that out, I suppose, or I could spend the rest of the resting hours mulling it over.
Because the other thing we have to think about, we don't exactly, well, at least I don't know exactly how to get up to the Golden Terrace. There is the staircase, and she points up to this beautiful, like, gold chastened staircase that winds up just the sheer, like, outside wall of Colcheron. But that seems just a bit exposed. And
Yeah.
so, can any of you fly? I know our one member who could seem to have departed, but
Correct. Not fly, no. I know that our friend Shay is not obstructed by walls. Marwin's kind of agile, and I can bring people great distances shortly, but it's one at a time, and I can't do that very many times. Something
is
to
that
think
more of
about.
your magic?
Yes. Something to think about. I can't come up with a plan right now, which, especially on my own, I feel like I would need everyone else's help and agreeance on aspects of this.
Speaking of everybody else, I had a question to ask you, now that it's just you and me. And she now kind of scoots over a little bit closer to you. How much do you know about Morwen?
I try not to pry. I know she's a tabaxi. She's quite emotionally charged. She's excitable and curious and wonderful with entertainment and people in that regard. When at least they don't find her strangeness off-putting from the get-go. But that's about it. She hasn't really revealed too much of herself from the past, and I tend not to pry if it makes people uncomfortable.
I remember when you were talking to that tiefling, you said you were from Port Quinn. You're a Sunward Coast boy, and so maybe you don't know so much about Dungannon, but Morwen is from there, she said. Do you happen to know if that's true?
Learned.
So it's true.
Well, at least that's what she has told me. Whether or not it's true, I mean, you look at the company we keep within our own party.
She begins to smile as you say that. It does make a lot more sense than things falling into context.
How do you mean?
Have you ever heard of a ship called the Raging Harmony?
I don't believe so, no.
Not that I spend a lot of time with those.
What's the ship in a
foe.
bottle that I have, by the way? Sorry, not to cut you off too hard, but like, what's the ship in the bottle that I had? It was the.
Oh man.
Oh, it's the ore music. It's the ore music. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, the ore music.
Never mind.
I was about to have to go back and look.
Yeah,
it up.
no, yeah, no, we're not doing that. It's fine. I wrote it down.
So that's in like my historical naval like thing.
That
You-
tone.
Yeah, it's a
Binder.
it's one of these.
That old hunk of plastic.
This is my handout and stat blocks. And I have one for naval stuff and one for terrestrial stuff, and then I have a history one. But you,
So she goes on to say the Raging Harmony.
the Raging Harmony. Now, mind you, I don't spend a lot of time around these sort of people, but for those of you, or for those of, and she sort of gestures broadly, who deal in things maybe a bit less legal, the Raging Harmony is a well-known ship. It's a pirate ship out of Dungannon. And maybe a little bit less than a year ago, word began to spread that they had a new crew member, one strange. And although the details don't exactly match up, I'm beginning to wonder whether your black hat friend might be the same person.
Hmm.
And if so, I don't know how much more one knows about the fate of that ship, but it isn't good.
Hmm. Well, that's disheartening. I know we ran into one of her old friends a while back in the Sunrest Isles or Farshore area. On the other
For a
side
second-
of the continent, but
For a second, you almost see, like, maybe not relief, but just a slight shift in her mood. Well, that's good then. Maybe there are those who survived.
so you've lived here your entire life, yet you know about this kind of thing. What interest is it to you?
Well, like I said, although I certainly don't talk to them, those kind of people do talk, and they do travel.
Interesting. Okay.
I wake up from my deep sleep saying, "Y'all talking shit?" I don't.
They're in a different place. They're up on the top of the
Yeah.
Ziggurat, but
Yeah.
I squeak it out in my sleep.
and you hear Doug on your chest kind of and kind of goes back to sleep. But
Y'all talking shit?
What investment in their or any of their adventures do you have? I suppose. Because now I'm curious. Seems like you have a bit of interest in my friend, and that's either alarming and concerning, or a bit of a relief, depending.
make a persuasion check.
13.
You know, I can't quite remember who it was that came through and told me about them, but my vested interest in your friend isn't her personally. You know, I've heard black cats are bad luck from somebody, but my interest is more in her skill set. I've heard that she's very quiet, more so than the other brothers, and I think maybe a bit of a plan is beginning to coalesce within my head. But give me some time. Let me think about it.
Well, you let me know when that.
Meow.
You let me know when that sort of forms into something tangible. I'm not about to. Well, it would be her own choice anyway. I don't know. Why don't we put a pin in that? And
Well, before we put a pin in it, I mean, what are you as a whole group? I mean, none of you speak for the others, except maybe Shay for Gunter. And now that I finally know all of your names, I don't actually know what the truth is about all of you. I mean, you're from Port Quinn. She's from
Sure.
Dungannon. Shay is clearly from the north somewhere.
right.
And Gunter, he's from the disenfranchised. He's a hill dwarf. He's from nowhere, basically.
Oh, come on. I know you guys have this mighty city here, but everyone has a reason. Everyone has a place. It's fine. You don't need to get all too harsh about it.
Well, it's not being harsh, it's just history.
Okay. well, beyond that, our, it's ironic. I have no idea how our path has led here at all. It seems to be that we met under strange circumstances that led us to discover what is slowly shaping up to be a scary, not truth, but I don't even know, a rumor, more than that, about just things, the way the world is changing, and the threads have all begun to, show their connections to each other, and it's, the more we go, the more we see there might be something that we need to help prevent just because we have the knowledge, and if we didn't, then we would be just as culpable for, well, greater catastrophes than Koltaram, I would say.
What is it that you're trying to prevent?
And I lean in, and I'm like, the end of the world. And I say it like kind of jokingly because I'm still not even like myself convinced.
If you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But maybe I can help if you ever change your mind.
Well, you've proven yourself quite adept in your skills, and we have always needed more help than we are able to provide ourselves. So this is, so far, I have been pleasantly surprised by your aid that you have lent.
You can see she's kind of regarding this ring. Well, remember, you guys are all here to help me. And she removes that golden ring. Knowing a bit more about who she is, you can give this back to Morwen. And she gives you the gold ring.
All right, I'll keep it and put it in like a convenient pocket.
As you mentioned,
you're gonna
though,
steal it from me.
as you mentioned, though, I do need to be getting a bit of sleep before we press on.
Yes, by all means.
Jesus stands up, kind of unruffling this. For her, she does move a little bit awkwardly now that she's not in the street, kind of trying to blend in. This is not the kind of clothing that she typically wears. But she, first begins to kind of walk, and you can hear her muttering, just kind of like, how am I supposed to do this stair? And she's pulling up the dress and kind of holding it. But she makes her way down the stairs and eventually also to sleep. Is there anything else you're doing before this night ends? Before your watch ends?
I had a thought about trying to communicate with my patron in some fucking way directly. I'm going to try writing in the book.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet.
What are you writing?
Well, first of all, when I open it, is it still the same kind of celestial writings and things like that?
Yeah, so far you've looked and it hasn't changed in terms of sort of the theme of what's happening.
Right. And nothing, okay, all right, cool. I'm going to write into it just a simple hello in Celestial. Trying to copy. I don't even know if that works in the sense of I can read all writing. Can I reproduce it?
You can't reproduce it. You can read all writing. What I'll say is, if you want to make a performance check, you can try to as you flipping through, be like E. Oh, there's an E, and copy the E. You can kind of try to transcribe.
I have enough
it.
time.
Yeah, you
so
do.
That,
well,
and then if that,
check.
And I'm gonna follow it up also with comment of hello.
Okay.
Performance is 19.
Okay. So you flip through and you kind of need to find the different things, but you do find something that says hello when you kind of copy it. And Celestial is complex. I mean, it's these beautiful circles with other circles and triangles and different angles kind of overlaid into them. But you do
more
it.
Calligraphy than an alphabet.
Yeah, but you draw a lot. I mean, so for you, not terribly hard. You easily enough do it. And as your pen or as your quill leaves the paper, it's almost as if the letters themselves become liquid and flow into the page. And you see it sinks into almost light that moves through the parchment and then begins to reemerge in a different symbol. More celestial. And as it sort of shifts and changes, it realigns itself to common so that you could read it. And you recognize this happening as a feature of your invocation, not as part of the book.
Right.
But what it says is, Markavir, hello.
I'm just kind of oh, fuck.
And then you see again that kind of celestial kind of bubble and then become light drifting beneath the page before it vanishes.
Yeah. Reply with, you know my name, what is yours?
And so it takes time again. I'll say with the 19, no real problem. You easily enough kind of go through, and it takes a little longer, but you do it.
Can I count this towards like learning a new language in my downtime as like a craft?
Slowly, yeah, sure. You're saying in your downtime, you're trying to slowly learn Celestial?
At least the written word, yeah.
Okay, give me a second here. Okay, so yeah, slowly as you do this, you will begin to learn Celestial as you are actively trying to. But again, as your quill finishes the last link of the circle, it seems to shimmer and vanish into the page. And all that kind of bubbles up is, well, not all, it's a couple of different celestial symbols. And as they form out, they read a sentence. Our names are not important, but what we are is. I am a solar in the service of Helen. And then it begins to kind of bubble and drift back into the book.
And I'm just like kind of looking up being like, fucking knew it. Do you always see me? Or are there times where I'm obscured from your vision?
The letters vanish and reappear. You are always visible to us. But we only began watching you shortly ago. And again, it kind of vanishes.
Santa Claus.
It's fucking Santa. God damn it.
Santa,
Santa the Solar.
That's your patron. Yeah, you're a warlock to Santa Claus.
That's a curious one shot for 6 months from now.
Maybe I'll think about it.
We all have to play as elves. We all have to play as warlocks, and Santa is just like some overlord, elder thing.
Nah,
You can
I'm
do it
gonna
for
be.
Christmas if you guys want.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a snowman.
Okay.
I'm gonna be
Either-
All right.
Frosty.
Okay. You know what?
Of
I want
course
to do
you'd be a
this.
snowman.
Can
I'm
I?
Frosty.
Can I? Full well knowing this is probably boring for you guys, or interesting. I don't know. But
I don't care.
can I just write a string of questions too that I would assume would take about an hour?
Sure,
And just,
yeah.
and just email later. I don't want to
Yeah.
I also
No
can't
problem.
think because I didn't think this was gonna fucking work. So I'm dumbfounded.
What I will say is, as you begin to write those questions out, it seems to only work 3 times a day. Because as you begin to string these questions out,
I did
3.
2 currently. This was the
3.
3rd. I did okay. So
So you did 3 interactions. They don't necessarily
Gotcha.
need to be questions.
Yeah, hello wasn't a question, but
okay.
hello
That was an
Huh?
interaction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Gunter did that when he cast Raise Dead.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Noted. So by the 4th time, there's no response, kind of thing.
Yeah, so by the 4th time, when you write it, actually, the celestial itself doesn't break apart and kind of shimmer. It stays on the page and then kind of fades before it seems to just disappear, like disappearing ink.
Okay, cool. Noted. That's great.
Took you a long time. I was thinking.
It's a book. I know. I should write in it.
I was like, all right, Heinrich draws and journals literally every day. This is going to
And
be.
then he gets
like
this
first-
book and he never does.
I just didn't want to touch it because it's so pretty. Every time I
Spent
open it, it's got this
months.
blue light and it's gorgeous. I don't want to ruin
Heinrich
this
got
thing
this
given to
book
me by
like
God.
9 real world months ago and has not tried writing it yet. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It also fits his character that he would treat
Yeah.
it with reverence and not deface it.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
All antlers, no brain.
I mean, it follows my character sheet. I'm charming as hell, but I can't fucking think straight.
So all of you can mark off a long rest.
Yay.
Progresses without
So
issue.
interesting. No dreamies. when
No,
we're
no
actually
dreamies.
here.
You guys still have
Or
the stuff that
nightmares.
Helia gave you.
Which has been working.
Hmm.
And you guys have enough, I believe, for 3 more days after this. But you guys find sleep without issue. You wake up. It is no brighter or no darker than it was before. Heinrich, you kind of keeping watch after that and doing various things. You spend a lot of time in the book, but you don't see the light change any. You do notice there's a period of time where briefly rain pours down into the pool that kind of very, very ominous park is
The
centered
green
around.
lily pad or whatever it's called.
It was lily pad greens. But you don't see anything that would indicate the passage of day or night.
Okay.
Gunter, there is a moment though, and it happens roughly the same time as it begins to rain. That within your sleep you do have a dream, a real dream. And all that you see is just that hole in the ceiling of Colcheron and the clouds swirling beyond. And something about it seems to almost call to you. But you wake up. All of you wake up.
Is Doug still with me?
Doug is still with you. Doug is the last to wake up. He's kind of like laying on his back on your stomach.
Oh, so we're both on our backs. We're
It's like having a
swooning,
bag.
but-
Yeah, it's like a
looking
bag of
up.
potatoes on your chest. He's heavy. He's a wombat.
All right. Well, I don't disturb him until he naturally wakes up, and then
You have to wait. You have to wait for like another 10 minutes, but then you
Give
get
him a boop.
Huh?
Give him a boop.
kind of give him a boop on the nose, and he scrunches it in his sleep.
I split a ration with him again.
Okay, yeah. You eat for the day. Or you eat for the morning.
Also, like Gunter, do you want to hang out with Doug? Like you did rescue him.
I'm like still laying, just like staring up at the ceiling, and then I'm gonna get up and start doing my morning routine.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take Doug and put him
in
in
a
your face
minute.
and be like, "Good morning."
Good morning, Doug. I'm gonna give him a pet.
You hear this appreciative little come out of his throat. He has like little bits of this like dried meat in his fur from Morwen's ration. Little bits like fish kind of. But you you do that. You guys both also notice, and Shay, you as well, getting up and kind of, it's hard doing your monkey business, your morning zimi routine, because you are in a very cramped space. But you make it work. You guys all do notice Helia is in entirely different clothing with an entirely different hairstyle, wearing makeup.
Oh shit!
Welcome
Hi.
back.
Well, thank you, Morwen. Thank you, Gunter. I brought you something.
Oh,
Gifts like by ring.
I don't really know what
I'm
you're
sorry. I
talking
totally would have
about.
like left that on the floor next to your head. That's another thing I was going to do after.
And she kind of like turns and says, "Do you mean that ring?"
Yes.
Well, then I guess so. You just drop it into the leather armor.
There's just a lot of rings and like metal and coins clanking
Just various
around.
junk.
Yeah.
Slowly building
It's just
chainmail.
like this big. No, just kidding.
You're like gaining weight as we go. But she extends to you, Gunter, this little it's like a parcel which looks like clothes kind of wrapped up.
what's this?
Well, after our frightening encounter, it seemed as if maybe you could do with a new pair of pants, but I couldn't find any that matched. She like looks you up and down, that. So I got you something that would let you fit in and still appear as if you're part of the upper crust, as it were.
I don't know if it's gonna help.
Well, choose to wear it or not, it's entirely your choice, but I thought it might help. If we're going to try to walk through the streets of this dwarven city.
Is that what you suggest we
Alright.
all do?
Well, and then I would relay the plan of like distraction, dynamite, something like that, burying it or hiding it somewhere across from where we would need to go.
And so between
blow it up and all that shit.
Between Helia and Heinrich, they explain we really need like a distraction, or we need to like walk our way up. But it's a constantly living city. There are no carts going through the streets. And Heinrich and Helia also relate to you guys the fact that this is a city that has not changed. Like, despite the war that ravages the other three rings that you have been through, life as usual in the Ring of Gold.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, I'm not sure which part you want me to play. I'm,
You're able
very
I don't want anybody-
distracting. However,
You're able
I
to
don't
be
want
hidden, though. So if you could sneak across or blend in across, plant the dynamite kind of thing.
Well, Morwen, I was going to stay in the shadows, and you could do so as well. We can follow from a distance and help what we can, maybe creating smaller distractions as we go to draw attention from this group. They sometimes draw attention, and you will all draw attention here. Yeah, big antlers.
I do also want to remind you guys that I do have a squawk box.
A what?
A squawk box. I put it somewhere and it screams stuff. Just throwing it out there. I'd like to keep it, but like if it's like dragon distracting versus like moon distracting, I'll use it for dragon distracting. But not like people distracting.
Not the worst idea.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Does it mimic your voice?
Sorry, Joe. I have printout here. Let me check to see if I have the printout. Do you remember if it's? I think I can. I think it records my voice
It's a recording. It's a recording and a playback.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the specifics on timing and the activation word because that's in the card, but it's
Isn't it like 8 words or something?
something like that. I can't remember.
It's like a really. I think it's even less. I think it's like 5.
It could be like a hey over
I believe
here,
it's
you
5.
dumb dragon. Or, hey over here, dumb dragon.
Dragons suck. Whoop whoop.
The snail.
Your endless note.
Yeah, I know. The one piece of paper you've been using for the entire campaign for 14 months.
Here.
Oh, okay.
It's like basically fabric at this point.
Gunter, are you unwrapping this parcel that has been given to you?
Yeah, I'll unwrap it.
So as you take the paper away, what emerges is it is a black Coltaram formal wear for what would be the Stone Guard. This is like a commander's black rigid jacket. There are what look like gold buttons. Each one has what looks like the Coltaram, the Stone Guard insignia on it. So there's 3 of them on each arm. The collar is high and stiff. It goes down to what looks like a belt that cinches the actual jacket part itself. And then also folded underneath those are a pair of very nice black and very slightly pinstriped, the pinstripe itself being like a dark gray anyways. They are a brand of Stain Industries pants.
Oh, shit.
And then as you're like unfolding those,
Fancy.
a little bottle drops. You can see Helia reaches out and grabs it. And she says, "This is the most important part, so don't lose it."
What's
and
that?
she places it into your hand, and as you pull it up and look at it, it is something called hang on,
Liquid luck.
Dr. O'Runion's Cure-All Hair Balm.
Oh, yeah! I'm drinking that shit.
Oh my
So
god, that's
she
the
just-
nicest thing I've ever
She just
heard.
won everyone over.
It is this like thick, syrupy liquid that has like an almost unpleasant, like licorice kind of taste to it.
I hope I didn't have to rub it on.
Oh god! Oh
You
god!
Chug the whole thing down, and nothing seems to happen.
So what, do we wait like a week until it grows back or what?
It's supposed to be pretty quick. Maybe it just takes a little bit to kick in.
Should I like rub? I'm just gonna... Is it...
Oh, no, not yet. Just keep rubbing. I'm sure it'll work in a bit.
Hey, well thanks!
You're very welcome, Gunter. I think it'll help all of us, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably right. Now we can engage in plan distraction.
So what's the distraction going to be then?
Well,
I already
Hell
laid
yeah.
my best card that I could think of on the table.
Who's gonna take care
What?
of Doug?
Would it take to bring the war from the lower levels up here?
Yes.
Well, that's quite an interesting question. The war itself, all elements, the battles, the armies, the resistances, that would be a difficult feat to achieve, but we did just trek through a building entirely fested with gibbons and all, or what was it called? Gibbons and all sorts of things. So, Gunter,
Yeah.
well, what was it that dragged you into that room? I didn't get a very good visual of it.
Well, like I told you, there were some gibbons and one kobold, I think, and then
I heard you yell out something about a golem.
yeah. Well, they took this this like stone metal crest thing, and then I didn't really see what happened, but then that thing had all this energy around it, like some sort of activated mechanized creature. So
Well,
putting two and two together, I think they somehow turned that thing into like the on switch for some sort of massive thing that beat me nearly to death.
well, if it's mechanized, that means it has a maker, which means it has an owner, which means
Yeah,
that
I was thinking.
itself could probably be controlled.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I saw like I think it gets the energy that powers it probably from the center. It's hard to miss when it's, actively trying to beat you up with its power.
Well, that's a good thing to know. The other thing that I thought about was I know that you all avoided the creature that initially caused me to run and eventually get caught. But if we could perhaps lure that thing up here, we'd need to destroy sections of wall within the actual pillar itself, but that will be a distraction to be sure.
Mhm.
Somehow I don't know that that's a viable option.
Well, there hasn't
I
been
feel
a clear
like that's more of a plan B kind of thing. That seems a bit extreme for. I don't know why.
Hey,
Wait, we're
In
talking
the-
about getting.
In the name of exercising caution, I say we go with subterfuge.
Well, yes, we certainly could.
When I went down there while you are all resting, nothing was banging around and the room was dim and empty. It's possible that it either turned off or they let it away. These kobolds let it away. Either way, it didn't seem to be in the room and active at the same time. I hate to now suggest contrary to what I was saying before, but maybe at least a peek.
I want to do it.
Oh.
Unfortunately, who I was thinking.
From what Gunter
A
has
little
said, I would
more
like to take a look as
suited.
well.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
You want to go take a peek see?
Would have been a lot easier if you just helped
She
me
kind of
first time.
offers her
I
arm, but
don't
then kind
think
of
you would
takes
have
it
had a
back.
good go at it.
And then Helia looks down at her like ruffled, beautiful dress, and her makeup and everything, and she says, "Well, I may just sit this one out. I'm not fantastic at makeup, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks.
Yeah, your eyeliner is quite on fleek. Okay,
Thank you."
I would know.
That's another
Um,
Finger Gang original for you. You can take.
I
that
wasn't
one
even
for the
going to
bank.
question this one. Yeah, I just put it right there.
I'm putting on the outfit that I
Okay.
got.
You put on these really fine clothes, and standing before you is Gunter, who his single hair kind of waving in the wind still, but now wearing this much finer, almost like it's like a formal wear military ensemble.
It's a bit
Oh, okay.
stiff.
I won't give him Doug then.
Let me hold the little guy.
You're now holding Doug. You're no longer holding Doug.
Doug
Gunter is
equipped.
not
Doug
bad.
de-equipped.
This is good.
He's sitting there just like Dr. Evil.
Maybe I incorporate Doug into the plan somehow.
I'm gonna
Don't you dare.
do a quick
Oh, like
sketch.
he's,
I'm gonna do a quick sketch
safely.
of regal military commander Gunter holding his loyal pet Doug.
The wombat. All
Do I
right.
hear art inspiration?
I mean, I don't know. It's a good one.
That's
I
pretty good.
see it.
All right.
So, who's leading this venture?
I figured it would be a solo thing.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna
Okay.
go in and take a peek.
I'll go back up our ranged artillery.
I
want to
go see it. I went the first time.
Yeah, but you gotta take care of Doug. And you're in your fancy clothes now. You
Yeah,
don't wanna
you
get
stay
your
here,
fancy
Gunter.
clothes
You stay
dirty.
here. I don't want that to happen to you again because we're.
There's so
full-
much cool. So I find the cool stuff. I get
Can we just
destroyed
put,
by
like, a box on top of Doug, and then
That's
let's
not
take it off
nice.
later. It's not nice. I mean, they're
Doug will
from
be
the ground.
fine on my shoulder. Come on. You got this far.
And as you pet Doug, there's like another as he like kind of squawks a little bit. But you put Doug on your shoulder, and then it is the two of you, and then Heinrich, you as well, gonna lend support from the top.
Yeah, range attacks if need be.
Okay.
Or quick escape for one.
I
Sure.
mean, I'm just going to look and
I'm
come
gonna
back.
go see.
That's
what
why I
Doug
didn't feel like it
scouting.
was needed that a lot of people are going. We're just seeing if this golem is even still there.
That's all I
We're
want
not
to check
looting.
out.
We're not doing anything
Shay,
else.
what are you doing?
Distraction only.
Well, clearly, since I'm not needed, I'll chill with
I don't think that's
Elia.
necessarily true. Oh, like not to go scout, maybe. Well, but you got better eyes than I do.
And punch good.
Okay, I'm gonna sneak in and at least see if the thing's active. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good to me, Helia says.
And
Careful.
you know, it'll be probably pretty quick to figure out. So
Yeah, me and Doug will be up here for when you get
Okay.
back.
Okay.
You can almost swear that Doug kind of nods, but more when you creep ahead. And as you get close, you have to crawl through, and you get to this now larger hole. It's jagged and broken. There's bits of debris, and it is dark underneath. And as you look down, you let your eyes adjust, and you can see the same room that Gunter saw. The table is now empty. There is no large creature, although you see burn marks and bits of scrap metal. They've been trying to activate this thing for a while now. You do see on the table, there is one intact little stone disc with a little bit of metal in it. You also see... make a perception check.
15. I passed
15?
15 because that one's lame.
Okay. You don't see much else. I mean, there's a lot of broken rubble on the ground. It's hard to pick out too much from just right there. What I would say is taking a little bit of time and looking around, though, you do notice on the smaller table near where that creature had been laying down, there's like two small tables on either end. There are a few like tools and things on that table, so maybe something there worth getting. There is also what looks like, and it's hard to see because it's up against the wall, but there is what looks like almost like a little curio cabinet with glass doors, although you cannot see into it at the moment.
All right. I just wait a little bit, maybe like a few more minutes to see if there's any activity or if I hear
Okay.
anything.
While this is happening, the rest of you guys are waiting up. Are you guys doing anything during this time?
I want to like see what I can see from before. Try to see if like from above there's anything that I can pick up as of note.
Okay. So, Gunter, you also crawl along behind Morwen, and you guys can now be side by side at this hole very easily because it is so wide. But
Just
Gunter, you
like
peek over,
the other day.
make a perception check.
Do you still have Doug?
Yeah, he's on my.
That's on
He's
shoulder.
probably like on my back now. Yeah,
Just as
over
long
the
as he's
shoulder.
safe.
He's like he's laying down, kind of like,
Safe. That's perception. That's a 14.
14. Not too much has changed. You look around, and it's difficult. It was a little frantic down there.
Yeah.
But the 15, yeah, you don't see anything else.
Is the dwarf still there?
Yeah, is
Dead-
his body
dead
still
dwarf?
there?
So, Morwen, you had to kind of like pull your head back so that Gunter could look down. And then all of a sudden, as Gunter emerges, and Gunter, you feel this weird kind of tickling sensation. But as Gunter emerges, he has a complete full head of hair. The hair is almost platinum blonde. It is probably about like medium length. It's very shaggy in its current form, but these like platinum locks come out. You can see the beard. You can see like the stubble beginning to poke out. And as Gunter, you look over at Morin, and Morin's just kind of like looking at you, and you're about to be like, "What?" All of a sudden, you feel this as this big platinum beard. About the length of your old beard, just a little shorter and not with any kind of like things done to it, just emerges. And you are like luxurious locks. You are, and you hear Gunter's gunting noises echo in the chamber beyond.
Fuck.
Even Doug feels tense on your back, Gunter. But you
I
feel
take
now
his beard
Doug
and I
kind
shove
of,
it in his mouth.
you feel Doug kind of begin to nest into your hair. But yeah, looking down, nobody seems to have heard. And Morwen, you now turning your attention down, the body is still there. Yeah.
Well, look at that. Looks like yes, it's very beautiful. I'm very jealous. Looks like coast is clear though. Do we tell the squares or do we go just you and I? No, I'm just kidding. I don't say that. I don't need it. No, I don't need it. No.
I thought you were more excited about your hair coming back than like, lack of powers and stuff. I think it's a pretty. It makes
like
sense.
Samson.
I love it. I think this is really funny.
Okay. I mean, I'll go back and tell everyone all the information.
Okay. Morwen, you go back. Gunter, while Morwen is going back, are you doing anything or are you waiting?
I'm just like, yeah.
Okay, so you're sitting there playing with your new, and it's
Looks good,
big
Plum.
and luxurious and much more,
Voluminous?
vital and voluminous than your hair had been previously. Your stickly kind of snow white old man kind of ring with the beard is now replaced with like a full head of hair, fuller than any hair that you have ever had, Gunter.
But when I go back to tell everyone the information, I'm gonna start it off by being like, so it was really, really quiet, and then like we were just looking for the dead body, and like then all of a sudden this insane thing happened. Gunter has a beard.
Oh,
So the stuff worked then.
yeah, that'll help him blend in. That's good. That's good news.
Excellent.
Good news for our mission.
Oh, about the room though. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's no golem.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that plan. I don't feel like tracking down kobolds to steal a golem that'll attack us from them to run it, probably chasing us upstairs to have it burst out onto the street. That seems a little like too much. Too much potential danger intentionally. But then again, I don't know. I don't know if it's just deactivated somewhere else, but like, I wish we could bring it. That's all I said.
Well, there's some stuff around the room. I'd like to at least be lured, like drop down or something to
Heinrich,
investigate.
you said that you're able to take one person great distances very quickly.
Yeah, but that would be all of the ability to do that for the day.
Well,
And if we got into a fight, I would be much less useful.
oh, I was going to say it would make sense if you and Morwen went, and you could just transport her back in an instant, should anything go wrong.
Oh boy.
Morwen,
not
did you
sneaky,
leave
though.
Gunter by himself there?
Yeah, where is he? I thought he
Meanwhile,
was right behind you.
Meanwhile, Gunter.
I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that I can like set up a rope so that I can tie it off
God,
to
he's doing it
start?
himself.
Morwen never took the rope back. It's still anchored there. I mean, you can just
Oh, so it's anchored. It's anchored off.
you can throw it down and then just climb down.
All right, I'm gonna throw it down, and then I'm gonna
Noted. I'll make
wait,
sure to grab it again.
and I'm
Okay.
gonna see if anything like comes around.
Okay.
I'm in Gunter trap sensing mode now.
Okay, you take the rope and you throw it off and hits the ground. You go into Gunter trap sensing mode. Make a perception check from this distance.
Don't bring Doug.
That's a 25.
5. I mean, your mind goes sharp, and instantly your eyes are brought to either the top left and top right sides of the room. There are these two devices, not traps, but certainly either dangerous tools or weapons of some kind. but you don't sense
The
any.
ones in the top corners from before. All right.
But you don't sense any overt traps.
Okay.
And looking around at like the rubble-strewn room, you would imagine the kobolds, if there were traps, probably set them off during their ransacking of this place.
Okay, Doug. Are you prepared to see some hard truths about the world?
And Doug kind of like looks at you and just kind of gives a little.
All right, buddy. We'll slowly go down. Come on, bud. Let's go.
You make your way down the road. Morwen, as you come in, you see just the top of this little platinum blonde poof just descend beneath. Who's following Morwen? Just Morwen?
Yeah, I'm not going to be much good down there.
So Morwen, you see Gunter just drop down.
How what's the distance?
45 feet.
No, I'm not down, but like this tunnel, like from where they are to the hole.
Also about 45 feet?
55 feet, but yeah, not terribly far.
So I'm just gonna like, well, since it's kind of like a echoey tunnel, I'm just gonna turn around and be like, "You beat me to the punch. Gunter's down there.
Fuck.
He's got Doug." And then
Well,
I'm gonna
maybe
look
just
over.
wait and see if Gunter comes back, and then if not, we'll continue on.
I'm gonna go over and like look down at Gunter and be like, "You're bringing Doug?"
You see Gunter look up and Doug look up.
He has a right to see this.
You're gonna traumatize him.
He needs to see.
Oh, fine. Let me know if you need help. I'm gonna just...
Kind of settle into like the cat waiting pose at the edge. Gunter, you are now on the bottom. Your feet touch down and into rubble. Looking down, you can see broken stone discs all around you. And reading the bits of Dwarvish, these are like mining samples, but they're from around Dominion. And your eyes kind of catch sight of one that is half of the word myth and maybe from Mythelstream. Some of these come from abroad, but these are like stone and metal ore samples from various places. But as you kind of crunch into the rock, and there's hundreds of different kinds. What do you want to do?
I'm gonna go over to the body first with Doug.
Okay.
Just get it over with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. Looks
So
like...
Walk through the broken bits, your feet sliding, and you get up to the stairs, and one by one you climb them. And every step that you take, you can see a little bit more of this body. And, Doug, you feel him. He's on your back, and he's just kind of looking around. And every now and then you hear like a happy little as he's like, he's just been fed, and he's made all these new friends. And you get to the top stair, and all of a sudden you feel this like tension in Doug's body. The whole mass of this wombat on your back tensing up. And there is just like a little bit, just one shake, and then the body kind of trembles. And then he begins to let out a couple of little grunts, and he drops off of your back and kind of, for a wombat, gallops over. It's not very fast. And you can see Doug, the face, just kind of nuzzle into this like ruined dwarven face. Like you can see parts of like the bone sticking through, like broken out. And you just see Doug kind of nudging the body again and again. And because it is midnight.
Oh, what a weird place to end.
Well, I thought he was gonna end it before being like, "You approach the body, Doug goes still, and because it's midnight." I'm like, "Oh no, at least let him see it."
I'll leave you with the nice sad part. Because it is midnight, that is where we're going to end. So, thank you guys so much for those of you who tuned in for the entirety of our campaign or our session. This is the 40th one. Super cool. Whoa. You guys made it to the Ring of Gold. You guys saw Kindskep in person for the first time. And you guys made a friend and then traumatized it. So
not yet. I'm going to talk them through it.
Pluses and minuses. But great session, everybody. I believe we're all going to be here next week. So we'll be back for session 41, which I don't have a title for yet because it's this one. It actually didn't go in a place totally unexpected. But you guys, you're pursuing plans that I didn't quite foresee, so we'll have to see what comes up.
Oh, come on. You knew we were going to
but-
adopt Doug, though.
Oh.
You
Um,
must,
You can't put
you
a
must have
wombat in
known.
and expect us to not go for
I
it.
don't
Yeah, come
generally
on.
give you guys details like the what if details. I will say you guys took a little longer getting there than I thought, and Doug was originally designed to go back to his owner.
Oops.
You guys took some time.
We always take our time.
Yeah, you guys took a lot of time. Less like actually getting through the ziggurat. I mean, you guys got there maybe an hour later than returning Doug time.
Oh, okay. It's not like days.
No. It is close. Anyways, next week at 8:30 p.m., tune in for session 41 of Adventures in Alberon. But until then, it is crazy out there, so please stay safe. Talon, it is great to see you back here. Really happy that you're doing well. For everybody else who joined in, I know Das, Isumiwa, Nat Awesome, His Pip, everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in, for being active in chat. Thank you guys for the bits and the subscriptions. They help out a lot. We'll see you next week.